this information at their disposal. They work with the government. So if somebody, I mean, is doing a document and is putting a sign or a seal, do they even check these seals? That's another thing. So what I have discovered in Lagos is the government stands to say that, okay, you know what, we are in the right? Because they're bigger, they're larger, they're whatever.
The government is always right.
Exactly, the government is always right. But again, it brings me back to the question of what is the CDA doing? In every area, you have CDAs. And the CDAs they're like, how would I say, a collective representative to meet with the government. Well, we know that local governments do not, is almost non-existent. So, but, I mean, the CDA, I would expect that the government dialogues with the CDA. I mean, look at what is happening in, what's it called? Magodo. You know, they've been on that conversation for so long. And Magodo people are saying, you know what, you can't come into this
in fact, that one is even, the Magodo one is even a different matter. You know why? Because those properties were illegally sold. So the real owners of the land now came and said, this is our property. That one, so they are now trying to compensate the real owners of the land to now move them. So that's even a completely...
what I'm even trying to say, exactly, what I'm even trying to say is, there is, like you rightly said, there should always be room for dialogue. If the government has requirements, I mean, because the government wakes up and says, oh, we need this CDA to do this, you have expectations of people. With leadership comes the responsibility of, I mean, with followership also comes the responsibility of leadership. Right. You cannot be taking and not be giving. It's impossible. So when you even demolish, now we hear all sorts of reasons.
And we are not even hearing things around compensation.
Exactly.
And all of that. So let me come to you, Mercy, because someone is telling me, welcome, that this was why I was running away from the show. Honestly speaking, this is the only reason, because I have not shouted in 2 months. And I'm very happy, you know, staying my calm self. But honestly speaking, like literally sometimes, maybe because I'm a small business owner, I understand what it takes. It's a lot already that we are investing. We're trying, despite all the everything is coming at you. Every single thing is coming at you. If it is not the electricity tariffs, it is the petrol situation. If it is not the petrol situation, you have to also factor in the fact that some of the staffing.
But why are people surprised? I mean, ease of doing business in Lagos. Lagos ranks very low.
It's crazy.
So when people say, oh, Lagos is Lagos ranks very low on ease of doing business.
Because if I say now, so I get visas to 3 different countries and continents, and people who can just I might as well just, jackpot. But
you need to make the money to jackpot.
No, don't worry. I'll be all right. Okay. I'm not those kind of people that will suffer if I jackpot. People are looking forward to me coming. But let me come to you, Mercy. What do you think would have been a better approach?
Like I think I've been saying it over time. It's just simple. Follow the rules. Understand the reason why you are government in the first place. Understand the reason why the people elected you. You were there to make their life easy. It's not rocket science. You can get into... I don't think the government just woke up and started demolishing structures. Before all of that now happens, there should be a plan, right? You probably would have actually got into some kind of negotiation.
Well, you are the one in the real estate space. Is it easy for us to be able to get the grand master plan of Lagos? Like, if we said we wanted to check the document, because again, Very Dark Man came out.
Nothing is impossible.
Wait now, because that Very Dark Man said, before you go and buy land, check. See, the amount of fraud that happens with properties, you don't want to know. Even when you have done your due diligence to go and investigate, you then find out that there are some connivance between the people that are supposed to tell you that this property is okay, they okay to buy. They have connived with the people that are selling so that they can, and by the time you have paid, your money is gone. Like, we've heard all kinds of story when it comes to land, so I don't know, because it is tough.
I would say that one thing that we surely need to see from governments, from Lagos State government particularly, about this situation is empathy. People need to understand that it doesn't matter whether you're the governor or if you've never made contact with the Earth planet in 70 years. People need to know that at least there is something in you that empathizes with the fact that these are people losing their investments. And also there is that other conversation about insurance. I think this will definitely open our eyes to the fact that we need insurance.
But insurance is tricky.
They won't pay
for this.
So what's the relevance of insurance?
No, it's not
you are just wait. Educate me, please.
It's like you live in a cuckoo world. You have to come back.
I'm not.
No, you live in a cuckoo world. Are you seriously talking about this? No, we're not having this conversation.
Insurance is not reliable or what? I don't understand.
Did you just arrive here? What are we saying?
It's a function.
Please educate me.
I'm surprised. That's what.
Well, I really don't know all the details about that, but it's more like.
Was it fire that damaged your house?
You have to have. Okay, so when you take on insurance,
that's what indemnity they won't
exactly cover. That you cover. You have to. Your insurance has to cover particular things. So
no way around
you can't say that in case of demolition. How do you account for it?
Why would you even put a structure where you know will be demolished?
So first of all, insurance people also will take that into consideration, that you are not in a spot where you are liable to the government. That's one of the things. That's why when you want to do life insurance, one of the key things they ask you is your medical
health
history.
status.
Yes, they look at your age as well, because the older you are, the more the more you are prone to anything.
You're prone to die. So you just say anyway.
There's only very few insurance companies that have the intention to do those payments. So first of all, they will check that you tick all the boxes.
Yes.
So even if you've been paying for insurance religiously every year, it doesn't cover this. That's even more sad.
No, it's a sad
thing. It's just simple. We're saying that all of this, Lagos is happening right now. The last time we had this conversation, we talked about the issue of urbanization, the fact that there's population explosion, and that this government, we don't know data, in terms of data. Do we know how many people are born every day? Do we know how people are moving in and all of that? Do we have all of this information? Because if you have all of this information as a government, you're planning. That's why you have this data, so you can plan for people. There's housing provision. How many of this do we have? It's only during the election period we hear all of those stories. Unfortunately, Nigerians don't ask questions, so we just say, oh, we will be 100. Yes.
El-Rufai did the similar thing in Abuja when he was cleaning up and, tidying up Abuja. How were they able to do it? Even at some point, Governor Fashola also did some demolitions, and they were able to then compensate, right?
That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying.
No. Fashola did highways. He did highways. Yes, on the highways, because when he was expanding the Festac, yes,
a lot of places
they did it. So, the question I'm asking is, how convenient is it for the government to think it is okay to do what it is? Because right now, government has not come out to say we're in the wrong. Whilst I commend what the commissioner is trying to do, cleaning up Lagos, like all those shanties, all those guys under the bridge, all those uncompleted, because I've always said that those are security risks.
Those ones are something. Those are different conversation entirely.
These properties that you clearly turned the blind eyes.
Completed properties.
You understand? You allowed people to complete it. Some people have even moved into those properties for years. Yeah. All of a sudden, you just wake up, and you think it is okay. I don't know. I don't. It doesn't sit right with me.
Except, well, that's on the off chance that, well, people are not really, which will be crazy. People are not really saying the truth. So this lady who came out her video has gone viral. I was trying to read a lot of comments, and I saw quite a number of comments that did say that it's very possible that the owners of that building, maybe it's not a new building, maybe they had prior knowledge, maybe they had been told that they were going to demolish that building, and they quickly put up that building for sale, and unfortunately they didn't give,
like, distress sale.
Exactly, they didn't give the new owners that information. It's very possible. Again, we're talking about Nigerians. Nigerians are a funny people. That's
shady.
True.
Do we know shady sometimes?
That's the thing. It's like a free for all. It's a market for all. Honestly, this one is because I find it hard to believe that the government, like Mercy keeps saying, the government will just wake up and start demolition again, because there are legal consequences to that.
There's even one area right now in Lagos somewhere. Okay, right? That's what they call it. If you go to one of those estates, Royal Pine, I kid you not, just take a drive. For your own sake, I'm going to say what I'm telling you. They the street has been tumbled because I heard that that place was already marked for demolition, and somehow it's like they've gotten to it around some sort of agreement, and that's why they are taking the interlockings. You need to see people's cars are parked on the road. The road is stressful. You can't drive in. Everywhere is just confusion. The water pipes have been busted. People are stressed. What is it? No, it doesn't. I'm not joking.
Really
just take a drive. You go and see the drama that's
at this rate, maybe we'll begin the park our load.
That day I was just coming out from the street. That lady was asking me, see the way cars were queuing as if they want to buy petrol. The lady was like, are you the one that parked that car? I said, madam, I don't know. Just find your way. What's my own cost? People, this is too much. We're saying there's a way to do stuff.
Yeah, there has
now
to
it's
be
okay
a
that you have
dialogue.
failed, but you cannot just wake up and act irrational.
There are
We're not
traditional
crazy people.
rulers, there are,
You know,
I mean,
there's a way. Let's find a way before we demolish. Before we get to the point of saying we want to destroy.
That should be
the last conversation. What can we do?
Well, have you noticed that there's a character of our government officials? They are very quick. Quick them. Bulldozer don't reach there.
Because everybody
Remember there was one famous governor.
Everybody has an agenda.
No, because do you know how painful it is for me when I see those demolitions happening? I mean, there was one governor now that was demolishing government-built establishment just because he no want. I mean, I've seen governor that remove roof of State House of
Assembly. Let's call in a Rivers.
Because I keep on wondering that, wait, do you realize that it is taxpayers' money? Do you calculate some of these things? You think it is just okay for you to just carry bulldozer? Like, bulldozer should be your least resort.
Yeah.
You understand? But I don't know.
It's inhuman. Let's call it the way it is.
My own is that if you will do anything for me, I have passports. No, because I think we have gotten to that place in Nigeria where everybody is just tired. So if push comes to shove, what you would just do is people will say, you know what, I have had it.
I give up.
Right? I mean, people have cleaned up certain kinds of areas just to make the place a bit nice and all of that. And in fact, someone was saying that some of these properties that were demolished, they had just sent them land use charge that they had just paid.
And you're supposed to renew it every 5 years, right?
No, every year.
Every year. You pay
every
land
year.
use
You
every
pay
year.
you pay land use charge every year.
So what's the one you pay every 5 years? I don't own a property, so.
Oh, so I'm not aware of the one you pay every year. But
every
land
year,
use charge is you must pay your land use charge every year. That some of these properties, they had just renewed their land use charge.
So that's basis for...
So does that not tell you that? So you are aware that this property exists. You've been collecting. So that's why I'm saying that if we had a good, what's it called, justice system. And that's why I actually love the quote by Martin Luther King, the one we had today, that injustice anywhere, right, is a threat to justice everywhere. And that's the truth, right? Because you see, what we do all the time in Nigeria is that as long as it is not in my doorstep, I'm all right. That is our approach to how we elect our leaders. That is our approach to how we address certain situations that our leaders do. As long as it did not come in my doorstep, well, I'm fine. That's what we do. So it is not affecting me, I'm good. But until it comes to your doorstep, that's when you now be going Greek like that. Meanwhile, you would have just been, what's it called, empathetic enough to understand that if this can happen to this person, can also happen to me.
And to lend your voice.
Do you understand?
You know, because I also think there's a communication gap between the government and
there
the
is
people.
always a communication gap.
I mean,
that one is a given.
So we always speculate because nobody from the government is actually speaking. Because maybe if they were speaking and people would truly understand and say, oh, okay, would be able to say, okay, you know what, let's come to the table, have a conversation. But nobody's talking. You're just saying reaction.
And you know that if you say that you can't compensate everybody, right? If you say you can't compensate anybody, then rise up and do your work. Don't wait, because it is not. I'm not the one that will come and tell people where to build. That's why you have ministry. You have different ministries, environment, land. You have various ministries that are working and agencies. You understand? You have bodies that have been created. We ought not to be in all of this chaos.
No,
it's too chaotic.
Even LASRA. What is LASRA doing? Yes, now LASRA is the residents. So they have addresses. They can't.
If they have ghost workers, let us know.
It is, and you just put yourself, because when we say be empathic, it's not like
it's just
we're
very
not. It's not difficult. We're saying you put yourself in the shoes of these people.
To go. We just plead with the government, right? It's so sad that these demolitions have already started taking place in full force. But please, let's do better. I mean, we have humanity in us, right? And let's always approach things from the human angle. All right, so before we go, thank you so much, ladies. Ensure you follow us across all our social media handles as displayed on the screen. Now you can like, share, invite your families and friends to continue to watch and follow our conversations. Now, if you missed our call today, I mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. This was from Martin Luther King Jr. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. live as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Ciao.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
This week on The Inside Story, the situation in Gaza reaches a critical point as Israel urges civilians in Rafah to evacuate, and 1.4 million Palestinian refugees saying they have nowhere else left to go. World leaders call on Israel to stop any planned offensive in Rafah, with neighboring Egypt calling it an escalatory action and Jordan calling it a massacre in the making. In the U.S., university students continue their protests in support of the Palestinian people, causing some schools to cancel graduation. All this with presidential elections just 6 months away. Now, on The Inside Story, Gaza war, widening crisis.
Welcome to The Inside Story. I'm VOA White House correspondent Anita Powell. The search for an elusive ceasefire continues in Gaza. There are signs of progress in ceasefire talks between Hamas and Israel. But even as both sides look for solutions, Israel continues its military march into Gaza. and the White House walks a political tightrope, urging Israeli restraint while voicing unequivocal support for the Jewish state. VOA White House Bureau Chief Patsy Widakuswara starts our coverage.
Palestinians mourn over loved ones killed in Israeli airstrikes on Rafah Tuesday, while thousands continue to flee following a limited Israeli ground operation overnight in the eastern part of Gaza's most southern city.
This operation will continue until we eliminate Hamas in the Rafah area and in the entire Strips area, or until the return of the first hostage.
Israel's operation in Rafah is intended to pressure Hamas. The militant group agreed to a ceasefire proposal on Monday, but Israel said the plan did not meet its demands to eliminate Hamas from post-war Gaza.
Because Israel's war objective was to make sure that Hamas doesn't control any Gaza anymore. The meaning is that Israel is going to basically to lose the war in that sense.
As Palestinians seek safety, negotiations between Israel and Hamas continue through intermediaries in Cairo. White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby on Tuesday expressed optimism.
A close assessment of the two sides' positions suggests that they should be able to close the remaining gaps. And we're going to do everything we can to support that process and achieve that outcome.
Not many analysts share that optimism. Beyond swapping hostages for peace, both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar are looking toward their own political survival, said former U.S. negotiator for the Middle East Aaron David Miller via Skype.
In a conflict where two combatants believe that the stakes are existential, that vital national interest, or in the case of Sinwar, his personal survival is at stake, the influence of external parties is limited.
The stakes are also high for President Joe Biden, whose electoral success in November is in part tied to reaching a ceasefire.
And my commitment to the safety of the Jewish people, the security of Israel, and its right to exist as an independent Jewish state is ironclad, even when we disagree.
Hamas has warned Israel there will be no ceasefire if military action continues in Rafah. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, Washington.
While ceasefire talks continue, so does the Israeli offensive in Gaza and the mounting human toll. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, the offensive has resulted in more than 34,000 Palestinian deaths. What many people see as Israel's indiscriminate use of force in Gaza has been the catalyst for ongoing pro-Palestinian student protests across the nation. But U.S. officials say there is also a worrying rise in anti-Semitic incidents across the country. Natasha Moscovaya reports.
This ancient hatred of Jews didn't begin with the Holocaust. It didn't end with the Holocaust either.
At the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum's annual remembrance ceremony at the U.S. Capitol, President Joe Biden had a message for American Jews and the State of Israel.
Let me reassure you, as your president, you're not alone. You belong. You always have and you always will.
The Anti-Semitism Worldwide Report for 2023, published Sunday by the Anti-Defamation League and Tel Aviv University, revealed a 103% increase over the previous year in acts of violence, vandalism, and harassment targeting American Jews.
Unprecedented levels of anti-Semitism engulfed Jewish communities in capitals all over the planet. It was the worst year for anti-Jewish hate in America that we've ever seen since we started doing this work 45 years ago.
According to the report, nearly 3/4 of American university students have witnessed an anti-Semitic incident in some form since the beginning of the academic year. Many pro-Palestinian protesters, however, insist they are not anti-Semites. Zoe Reagan is a pro-Palestinian protester at the University of Washington in Seattle.
We have a lot of Jewish students amongst us, amongst the organizers here. This isn't about anti-Semitism. This is about being staunchly anti-Zionist, because there are people who are being displaced from their land and exterminated with U.S. taxpayer dollars.
Noah Tishby, co-author of the new book Uncomfortable Conversations with a Jew, says the term Zionism, which simply indicates Jews' right to their own home in the land of Israel, has been hijacked and demonized.
There's nothing wrong with criticizing Israeli government policies. That is not what is happening on campuses in America right now. They literally say resistance by all means necessary. They are praising October 7th. These people are calling to take down the single Jewish state in the world.
Tishby says while Biden's staunch support does make the community feel safer, it doesn't take away her conviction that another Holocaust could happen again if hateful trends are left unchecked.
October 7th felt to the Jewish community like a repeat of the Holocaust. When we heard the same stories of mothers hugging their children while they're being burnt alive, and children and teens and kids hiding in cabinets, and decapitation and mutilation and rapes, I call it the atrocities of October 7th and the atrocities of October 8th. Because October 7th happened, and it took a little less than 2 hours for the anti-Zionist, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic organizations to start praising it.
She says that anti-Semitism is also often an indicator of the presence of deeper problems in a society, and that seeking a scapegoat rarely stops with one group only. Natasha Mozgovaya, VOA News.
The world is closely watching the protests on college campuses across the United States against Israel's conduct of the war in Gaza. Reactions to both the protests and the arrests of some students vary widely, from pride and solidarity to alarm and condemnation. VOA senior diplomatic correspondent Cindy Sain reports from the State Department.
Columbia University in New York City has been the epicenter of pro-Palestinian protests that have spread across America. Students are calling on their universities to disclose and then divest all of their funds related to Israel and to end all academic partnerships with Israel. They are also calling on the United States to stop sending military aid to Israel. The protests are now spreading elsewhere in the world, including demonstrations Tuesday at Berlin's Free University in Germany. Students in Germany, France, the United Kingdom, as well as in Gaza, have praised the American protests. Iran has criticized the police crackdown on some campuses, with Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei tweeting out his support for U.S. students.
Some of the key adversaries of the United States around the world, the likes of Russia, China, Iran, are trying to use these protest movements to really raise more fundamental questions about the health of the American democracy and such issues as whether America is what it claims to be.
One university in Iran even offered to take in expelled American students or any fired professors, though the Middle East Institute's Alex Vatanka told VOA he does not expect there to be a rush of U.S. college students buying plane tickets to Tehran. Another expert at the University of Chicago says he does not believe the protests will have the staying power of the massive U.S. student demonstrations against the Vietnam War in the late 1960s.
Even though these are organic, and even though these are people who care deeply about this issue, by and large, this is not as salient of an issue for large segments of the U.S. population, in the same way that the Vietnam War with the draft, for example.
Chinese leaders have been largely silent on the protest. On a recent visit to China, where anti-government protests are strictly banned, Secretary of State Antony Blinken praised the campus protests.
And in our own country, it's a hallmark of our democracy that our citizens make known their views, their concerns, their anger at any given time.
But Blinken again criticized the silence of protesters about the militant group Hamas, saying they should stop hiding behind civilians, release the hostages they are holding, and lay down their arms to save Palestinian civilians. Cindy Sain, VOA News, the State Department.
Major news organizations have brought coverage of the protests on U.S. campuses to audiences around the world. But as Robin Guest reports, some of the best reporting of the unrest has originated close to home, led by student journalists.
New York City police arrested protesters this week at Columbia University. But before they took action, they attempted to clear the campus of student journalists. By the time police stormed and cleared Hamilton Hall of the occupying protesters, student journalists told VOA there weren't many of them left to report on events.
The NYPD severely restricted the access of members of the press, including the student press, who were on campus. Several members of the student press who were outside Hamilton Hall were removed from the campus entirely. Now, this is very troubling because they weren't there to document or to bear witness to the police action that was going to take place in a sensitive environment.
Bose and Columbia's other student journalists say press freedoms were violated. Nonetheless, their work has inspired others.
Especially like listening to some of the Columbia radio broadcasts. I think that that is a pretty helpful lesson for all of us student journalists to know that, you know, official narratives exist, but also like our reporting is allowed to challenge them.
On the West Coast, riot police cracked down on a pro-Palestinian encampment Thursday at the University of California, Los Angeles. Student journalists were on the front line when police moved in to tear down the encampment and arrest protesters. Their newspaper said at least 4 of their reporters were attacked by unknown assailants.
I do think that what they're doing speaks to the clear and profound importance of student journalists at academic institutions to provide regular updates to faculty and students as to what's happening on their campus, especially under the current circumstances.
Student journalists say safety is a chief concern. Some are reporting in pairs, others wear large press credentials. Their coverage is earning high praise. The Pulitzer Prize Board, which presents awards for outstanding achievements in U.S. journalism, recognized the nation's student journalists for tirelessly covering the protests in the face of personal risk. Legal watchdogs are keeping an eye on events as well, noting that student journalists have been pepper sprayed, hit with rubber bullets, and disciplined by universities for their reporting.
When student journalists are lumped in together with those protesters whom they're trying to cover, it's a disservice to everyone.
At George Washington University, student journalists covered the lead-up to the campus conflicts for months. This encampment is a joint effort of 8 schools in the Washington area. Many journalists have been here since the first tent was pitched in mid-April.
They told us, hey, there's something going on, you guys should get ready. And so with the rest of the news team, we sat down, we put together a coverage plan.
Some student journalists told VOA they simply continue doing what they did before their campuses became international stories and their work garnered recognition. Report the campus news. Robin Guess, VOA News.
This week, Israel ordered the Qatar-based Al Jazeera news channel to cease all operations. Israeli police raided their offices and confiscated their equipment. Al Jazeera officials blasted the move by Israel, calling it a criminal act, and the Foreign Press Association called it a dark day for democracy. The action came after the Netanyahu government passed a law in early April allowing the government to shut down media networks it deems a national security threat. The Netanyahu government has been critical of Al Jazeera for years, accusing the Qatari network of inciting violence against Israel in its reporting. Al Jazeera officials say they will pursue legal options to allow their journalists to continue to work in Israel and Gaza. Since April 18th, over 2,000 people have been arrested for taking part in pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses around the country. To get a feel for what they want and what's motivated them, I spoke with Dinora Getachew, the CEO of DoSomething.org.
These protests are really going to have an impact on the 2024 election cycle, both at the top of the ticket as it relates to the presidential election, but also all the way down the ballot. What we know to be true is that young people's distrust in government and major U.S. institutions has been building and has contributed to this new age of activation on college campuses. Do Something members who range in age from 13 to 25 years old have told us that they don't believe that lawmakers consider their voices a national policy. And that's like an overwhelming majority of them. So only 17% of young people actually believe that lawmakers are hearing their voices.
Thank you so much for speaking to VOA today.
We now move to a new page in history. Though the generation that witnessed World War II dwindles with each passing year, the relevance of what they saw resonates with history being made today. As Kane Farbaugh reports from Skokie, Illinois, a Japanese diplomat's act of defiance during World War II saved thousands of lives and is the theme of an ongoing effort by an American musician to pay tribute to the man known as Japanese Schindler.
World-renowned cellist and musician Christina Reiko Cooper weaves a multicultural narrative in many of her performances around the globe.
My mother's Japanese and my father's American.
And her husband is Jewish. Through him, Cooper learned of the story of Chiyune Sugihara, a Japanese diplomat stationed in Kaunas, Lithuania during World War II, who issued visas to Jews fleeing the advancing Nazi army, defying the Japanese government he served.
I know what it means, like to go against authority in the Japanese culture. I mean, that just doesn't happen.
Over a 2-month period in 1940, Sugihara issued more than 2,000 visas to Jewish families, enabling them to travel through the Soviet Union to Japan with transit to another country.
This is a permit.
Then 6-year-old Chaya Leah Walken, now Chaya Small, was among them.
He saved my life. He saved my home. He saved everything.
Small and her immediate family spent the rest of the war in a ghetto in Shanghai, China. They were the only members of their once large extended family to survive the Holocaust.
One of my favorite pictures, the fear.
Small says her parents spent much of their life afterward seeking ways to express their thanks to Sugihara.
We couldn't find him. He became ostracized.
In post-war Japan, Sugihara lived in relative obscurity until his death in 1986. Cooper learned that while his act of mercy was overlooked by his own country during his life, it was never forgotten by those he saved.
It wasn't until the very end of his life that he knew that he even saved one person, much less, thousands.
I am grateful to God for every day of the wonders and the miracles he had done for us, because Sugihara was not a Nora, it was a miracle.
Sugihara was recognized as a righteous among the nations, one of Israel's highest honors.
It's something that not a lot of people know about.
Something Leah Rausch says the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center tries to correct through exhibits honoring Sugihara and through public engagements like this performance by Christina Cooper.
Today I'm playing a program with solo cello and shakuhachi, which is a traditional Japanese instrument.
Cooper's performance is an extension of a larger project honoring Sugihara, incorporating choir and symphony in a grand concert that premiered at Carnegie Hall in New York City in 2023. Whether playing in a symphony or a duet, Cooper seeks to keep Sugihara's legacy alive through music.
It's the universal language, right? You don't need words. You don't need visuals. You don't need an understanding of another language. You listen, you absorb, and it goes straight to the soul. So we're hoping that we can bring the story of Sugihara and what he stood for through our music.
For Cooper, who now lives in Israel and is a convert to Judaism, Sugihara's gesture isn't just a history lesson.
This quiet, modest Japanese man was responsible for the existence of my husband and my 3 children and my life as I know it.
Cooper's father-in-law also received a Sugihara visa. Her 3 children are among tens of thousands of descendants alive today because of Sugihara's actions, which is why, to Cooper, the music is more than a tribute, something survivors like Chaya Small understand while watching her perform.
A different way of saying thank you. It was her way of expressing her gratitude.
Thank you for my beautiful children. Thank you for my amazing husband. Thank you for my amazing life. Thank you for everything you did.
Chiyune Sugihara is now a household name in Japan. While some historians have raised doubts about the significance of him issuing the visas,
I attribute that to politics.
Survivor Chaya Small says she owes her life to the man she wishes she could have met in person.
I have been so in awe for saving us, for giving us back a country, a world, a people.
Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Skokie, Illinois.
6 months remain in the U.S. presidential race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. In the latest installment of our series, USA Votes 2024, correspondent Scott Stearns looks at what is ahead for the campaigns in the run-up to Election Day.
President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump have 6 months left to persuade American voters to give them a second term. Trump will spend some of that time in state or federal court answering 4 separate indictments on charges that include unlawful retention of national defense information and falsifying business records. He says prosecutors are interfering in the election.
Everything was legal, and they're doing this because it's for politics. They want to get Biden elected. That's the only reason.
The court appearances are reducing Trump's time campaigning, but he says what he calls a political hoax is only making him more popular with voters.
It's a terrible, terrible thing happening in our country, and hopefully November 5th, the most important day in the history of our country, in my opinion, that's called Election Day. Hopefully it's going to change because these people are destroying our country.
The Republican Party last nominated Trump for president at its semi-virtual 2020 convention in North Carolina. This year's Republican convention is in July in the state of Wisconsin. Before then, Trump will need to choose a new running mate. Among those he's believed to be considering for vice president are Florida Senator Marco Rubio, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, and New York Representative Elise Stefanik. As the incumbent president, Biden has the advantage of White House events to keep voters' attention on the campaign trail. Biden is becoming more pointed in his attacks on Trump, while claiming credit for a stronger economy.
Construction of new factories has more than doubled in our administration. Meanwhile, Donald Trump still thinks windmills cause cancer. That's what he said. By the way, remember when he was trying to deal with COVID, he said, just inject a little bleach in your veins. He missed it, all went to his hair.
The Democratic Party last nominated Biden for president at its semi-virtual 2020 convention in Wisconsin. This year's Democratic convention is in August in the state of Illinois. Biden is running again with Vice President Kamala Harris, who's been campaigning for restoring federal abortion protections that were ended when the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the case Roe v. Wade in 2022.
Donald Trump was the president who took away the protections of Roe. Joe Biden will be the president who puts the protections of Roe back in place.
Before November's Election Day, Biden and Trump are expected to debate. Both men say they're ready. No date's been set. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
Catch up on past episodes at our free streaming service, VOA+. We'll see you next week for The Inside Story.
You're in a queue, for example, and you go to some places or some countries and the queue is the queue. You have to join from the back, right? And that's conducive because, hey, I was here before you, makes sense. But then you find some people that they just don't have the time and everybody is in a hurry and they jump to the front stylishly and feel they will get away with it. Sometimes some people just don't want trouble and they just leave you with your, you know, your actions. But then you will find in some places where people don't like it, they don't condone it, and they will call you out. Excuse me, the queue is at the back. We need to see more of that nowadays.
You've probably experienced a scenario like this. You're waiting in line for a service or to buy something, and someone who sees the long queue comes along and goes straight to the front of the line, completely disregarding everyone standing. In most cases, some people on the queue will speak up, but some will look on with utter disbelief. With teeming population, it is almost inevitable not to experience queuing. If you're not queuing at the bus station, you're queuing at the ATM or in the bank, or to get tickets to your favorite show. Queuing is a way to create orderliness and to ensure that there is some fairness. But like clockwork, there will always be the impatient ones, or the ones who feel too smart that they find a way to jump the queue. Queues are not created to simply waste time but to ensure orderliness, because the chaos that happens without the orderliness leaves a lot of people bitter, angry and helpless. The reason why queuing is challenging for us can be associated with the way we see it. Darden Professor Elliot N. Weiss and colleagues Graham Gillam, Kylie Simmons and Donald Stevenson explained that across the globe, people wait for food and transportation, to make purchases, to get services, or to have experiences. But how they view the wait, what the rules are, and what they expect vary widely. Some cultures see needing to wait as almost always negative, while in other societies, saying there is a line can signal there's something worth waiting for.
In an environment where they don't call it out and they allow people to jump the queue, and jumping the queue becomes normal and the norm, they won't say anything wrong with it. They will continue to do it because they can't see the bad in it. You get to an environment where, hey, it's not possible for you to ever think of jumping the queue because people say, get back. Excuse me, we've been here before you, join the queue. There and then you notice that you've done something wrong. It conditions your mindset, I can't jump the queue in this environment, it's not acceptable. And so you begin to readjust yourself. It's a culture change.
Instead of seeing queues as a waste of time, see it as a way to better manage time. It is also a way to ensure fairness and equity. The next time you feel the urge to jump a queue, don't. Instead, remember some of these guidelines. Make up your mind if you will join the queue or not. Once you have joined the queue, stay in your line. You may decide to ask what the waiting time is before you join the queue. Some organizations will provide this service. Try to stay in lane, only reserved by using someone you know. Never say you were behind someone in a queue. Wait for someone to be behind you before you leave the queue if you must. Respect other people's space while on the queue. Watch your conversation on the phone, keep it confidential. Watch your personal belongings. Try not to leave shopping bags on the floor. Acknowledge the number of bags you're carrying. If you forgot something, unless it is close by, you will run the risk of losing your place once you leave the queue. Exercise huge amounts of patience, even when the queue appears endless. If you're holding a place for someone, explain to others around you to avoid conflict. Sometimes, the queue may be a telephone inquiry. You may have the option of calling back or leaving a message to be called back. If someone appears like they're jumping the queue, politely correct them without getting into a squabble. Always wait your turn if the queue is automated. Sometimes you may need to wait to be beckoned, served, or for the green light before proceeding. Follow the rules and move orderly.
Good afternoon. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. This is the news update. Several landlords at the Musa camp opposite Denis Osadebe University, Anhui, Delta State, were in tears as they watched bulldozers demolish their houses over 600 million naira. As tears flowed freely as owners of these buildings watched their homes, offices and shopping malls were also not spared. Our Sawa correspondent Apomejero Friday reports that following the marching order issued by the Delta State Governor, Right Honorable Sheriff Oboroweri, to the Land Recovery Committee, Mr. Frank Omari, to retrieve all government land across the 25 local government areas of the state.
I just gone down from north, from Kano State because of Boko Haram. I'm a widow. I be house here with 7 children. Where Sheriff want us to stay? What do we have? What do we have to say? No, that's a lot of things people complaining. They have demolished more than 1,000 and something houses here. Both 2-story building, duplex, a lot of things. People are mad, carry their load everywhere, going up and down. You know, it's rubbish. People are mad. You know, people are mad. We are mad. I'm not happy at all. They want to come back again for a second tenure. They are coming for a second tenure. We are waiting. The Asabas are waiting. The Oshimili people are waiting. They told us that we're unfortunate that we have the state capital. I went to the lands to confirm if that land is genuine or not. Even they give me a lodgement certificate about the land. That is the greatest thing that I don't know. Because if I find out, if they told me that this land belongs to the government, there's no way I will go and build in government land. I thought what government needs is people that will help them to create more employment. People are creating employment, and the next thing we are seeing that we want them to go into labor market again. So we are not happy, we are demoralized. In fact, since yesterday, most of us...
On his part, the chairman of the task force, Frank Omari, says the people were given enough notice to vacate government land.
We have the documents as state governments. If you want to see it, we'll give it to you. If you live here, go to the Investor Authority, the archive is there. This place, people just come, organize themselves as community members, selling these lands to very, very innocent people. And even these innocent characters, some of them even go to the ministry, and the ministry told them, this is a government land. Some of the characters of the ministry even give them a building approval. A building approval is not a CFO.
The ancient town of Ede in Osun State was agog today as the state governor, Ademola Adeleke, was officially installed as the Asiwaju of Ede land. It would be recalled that the title was held by governor's elder brother, Isiaka Adeleke, until his death in 2017. While speaking at the event, the Timi of Ede said the contribution of Adeleke's family to the development of the town is immeasurable, hence the reason the title is conferred on Governor Ademola Adeleke. In his remarks, Governor Adeleke thanked the people of the state for keeping faith with him, saying he will not relent in contributing to the growth and development of Ede and Osun State. Governor Adeleke sought the support of all and sundry in taking the state to greater heights. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde and the Oni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, commended Governor Adeleke for transforming the state in short space, urging him to use his new title for the development of Yoruba race. The event was graced by Oni of Ife, Governor of Oyo, Ogun, Lagos, and former President Olusegun Obasanjo, among others.
And we carry the light of positive transformation from town to villages and from city to rural areas across our dear state. To all Asiwaju title holders of various towns in Osun State, I welcome myself into your midst. On a lighter mood, I believe you are eager to receive me, not just as the Asiwaju of any land, but as the Asiwaju of Osun State. Dear friends and associates, your presence today strengthens my resolve to further devote myself to the service of the people. You will continue to find me a true people servant, a good listener,
an agent of good governance.
Well-deserved honor to the Mr. Governor, because as a son of this town, we are all proud of what he's doing, what the Adenike dynasty are doing generally. They are making us proud, and there is no better way to honor them than to give them this kind of honor. And we thank our Baba, Oba Dr. Muniruddin Adesola Lawal, for finding the governor worthy of this honor, because it's a well-deserved. So there is no controversy. We are all happy. We are pleased with it.
The Red Cross Society has launched an appeal for more funding to enable it continue to serve humanity in various ways. The official launch, which took place in Abuja, had members of the diplomatic corps represented, together with representatives of the various Red Cross societies such as the British Red Cross and the Norwegian Red Cross. Others are the International Federation of the Red Cross, IFRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross, the media, and other civil society organizations. The national president, while explaining the essence of launch, said it is aimed at addressing the huge gap in funding for the Red Cross in Nigeria, and Nigeria, being a major stakeholder, should rise to the occasion.
Put on a good percentage, we assume the percentage of about 70% of present rate of vulnerability. We are foreclosing that there might be arising some few challenges, maybe because of climate change issues and some other unforeseen circumstances that we might not be thinking about now. We all pray against disasters, but they do occur. If they come, we still have people at the local level that can rise up to certain levels of emergencies if they come beyond the plan of action that we have. Having some penetration into difficult or hard to reach areas in terms of conflict situations or in terms of even threats under.
On its part, the head of Delegating and Country Cluster for Benin, Ghana, Nigeria, and Togo, Bupinda Toma, said over $63 billion is needed by the Red Cross in Nigeria to effectively address its mandate, hence the need for the launch.
Nigeria Red Cross wants to serve more than 10 million people that are impacted by various crises in Nigeria. And it is requesting that it needs about $63 million to be able to do that. The biggest part of this money, or these resources that we are asking for, will go to serving the humanitarian impact of the various vulnerabilities in Nigeria. That means that the crisis in Northeast. So I think we are saying that we want to serve about 1 million people in the Northeast that are impacted by the various challenges that are happening in the Bay States and surrounding the Bay States. But the largest part of our contribution is actually for the hunger. As you heard in Nigeria, including the president of the country has declared a national emergency. And this is because 30 million people will be impacted by hunger this year in Nigeria. And we are asking for $33 million to see how we can use those resources and pass on to the most vulnerable here in Nigeria.
Please stay with us as we take a short commercial break.
Picture this. You're sitting at a table, ready to indulge in a mouth-watering meal. Stop. For many of us, it is hard to resist the temptation, especially when it comes to enjoying a juicy beef dish. But have you ever stopped to think about the impact of your food choices on the greater good? Our food choices have a great impact on others. The beef industry is one of the leading contributors to deforestation. As trees are cleared to make way for cattle ranching, it not only disrupts the delicate balance of ecosystems, but also contributes to climate change. We can make a difference with our choices. It does not mean we all have to become vegans overnight. Imagine enjoying fish and poultry a few times a week, indulging in beef just once a month, and filling our plates with plenty of plant-based goodness. Every little bit counts. And even small reductions in our intake can make a huge impact on the climate. By making smarter food choices, we're not only taking care of ourselves, but also the planet we call home. Remember, the choices we make today lead to a better tomorrow.
Ovation Media Group cordially invites you to the inaugural Daily Momodu Leadership Series. Our Red Daily Momodu is honored to present the Daily Momodu Leadership Lecture on his 64th birthday. The inaugural Daily Momodu Leadership Lecture, Intelligent Discourse. Topic: The Politics of Energy and the Way Forward. Speaker: Professor Bartholomew Nnaji, former Minister of Power, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Date: Thursday, May 16th, 2024. Time: 10 a.m. Venue: Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Kofo Abayomi Street, Victoria Island, Lagos, under the distinguished chairmanship of the former President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Dr. John Dramani Mahama. The Daily Momodu Leadership Lecture is a gathering of intellectuals for the discovery of innovative ideas and exchange of progressive knowledge under a non-partisan atmosphere. Chief host, Governor Ademola Adeleke, the Executive Governor of Osun State. The lecture will be live on GH1 TV Ghana, Arise News, Plus TV, News Central, and also on social media platforms: YouTube, OVTV Online, Facebook, Ovation TV Live, X, Ovation Media Group, and Zoom.
And from other parts of Africa, the death toll from a building collapse in the South African city of George last week edged up to 33 on Tuesday as rescuers continued to comb through the rubble, with 19 people still unaccounted for more than a week after the incident. Municipal officials said in a statement that only 6 of those who had been killed on the construction site had been identified so far, as authorities were struggling to get accurate names. The last person to be rescued was pulled from the wreckage at the weekend in what the Western Cape Province's premier described as nothing short of a miracle, coming 5 days after the disaster. The death toll stood at 32 on Monday. It has been steadily rising over the past week as more bodies have been retrieved. It is not clear why the 5-story building in the city east of Cape Town collapsed on May 6. Investigations are underway. Outside Africa, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Russian President Vladimir Putin must pay to rebuild what he has destroyed in Ukraine. Speaking in Kyiv, Blinken said Washington has the power to seize Russian assets in U.S. and will use them to help rebuild Ukraine. He also said that Ukraine is getting closer to NATO. Earlier, the top U.S. diplomat told Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky that military aid is now on its way. He added that G7 group, the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Canada, and the US can unblock billions of dollars and send a powerful message to Putin that time is not on his side.
Making Russia pay for Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. What Putin destroyed, Russia should and must pay to rebuild. It's what international law demands. It's what the Ukrainian people deserve. Our Congress has given us the power to seize Russian assets in the United States. We intend to use it. We're working with our G7 partners to see that Russia's immobilized sovereign assets are used to remedy the damage that Putin continues to cause. The G7 can unlock billions of dollars and send a powerful message to Putin that time is not on his side. Finally, we will help the Ukrainian people fully realize their democratic aspirations.
And that's the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on limex.tv and Globe TV apps anywhere in the world. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. Thank you for being there.
I will take you through this amazing lesson today.
Welcome to Cross Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Hello and welcome to VOA's Red Carpet. I'm Jackson Punganyi. On today's Red Carpet, NBA Africa CEO talks to us about a new accelerator program for African startups. And in northern Nigeria, Hausa traditional boxing is making a gradual comeback, and Guinean designer Queen Titini is breaking new ground in fashion. We have those stories, plus Malian duo Amadou and Mariam have announced a new compilation album they are calling La Vie est Belle. Let's get on with the show. Mon Amour, Mon Chéri, a compilation of the duo's greatest love songs. They accompanied the news with a new music video, Mogolu. It's Met Gala time, which means it is time for some of the most stylish celebrities to show off their most unique outfits. And this year's gala theme is Sleeping Beauties, Reawakening Fashion. Here are some of the top looks of the evening. Let's start off with some great news, especially for young African entrepreneurs. NBA Africa recently announced the launch of the Triple Double NBA Africa Startup Accelerator, a new initiative focusing on early-stage startup companies across the continent. NBA Africa CEO Claire Akamanzi tells me that the accelerator will support African entrepreneurs, mainly those working in the technology and creative industry ecosystems. Let's check it out.
We know, as we've seen in the US with the NBA, that technology and digital inclusion is part of improving the experience of basketball or sports in general. And so building on what we've seen in the US, but also building on the strength of the African continent youth that are very strong on tech startups, we said, why don't we initiate an accelerator that really helps to grow something Africa is strong in, which is innovation, but helping to take innovation to market. And so this is a Triple Double accelerator where we will collect. We already have 52 applications, by the way, since we launched it a few days ago. So the response is really good. And we expect to reach hundreds of applications. And then we shall narrow that down finally to 10 and then to the top 4. The ones that win, we shall give them a cash prize, but we shall also give them mentorship. I think the big difference is that this is being done with the NBA, leveraging on the strength that the global brand of NBA brings on board. But also what makes it different is that not only are we promoting solutions, but we can actually use the solutions if they improve the offering that we have. We are also looking at the combination of sports and creative industry, which is very important. I think we like to say NBA or basketball is beyond just the game of basketball. It is an experience, which is why we're very big on entertainment in our arenas. We're very big on supporting music, culture, and whatever fans have experience in the creative industry, we promote that together. And so this Triple Double Accelerator is also about not just solutions for the sports sector, but also sports and creative industries. And I think that's a really very good mix that we hope will be unique.
And continuing with sports, let's check out Dambe. The Hausa traditional boxing is a popular sport in most parts of northern Nigeria. The sport was, however, suspended for over a decade in the North Central Plateau State due to religious and ethnic violence. And now, Dambe enthusiasts are excited with the gradual return of the game to the city of Jos. Ilyasu Kasimu has the report.
Dreaded for his ferocity, Dogo Bahakwensani is getting charged by the boxing drummers before entering into the arena for the day's fight. This is his much-awaited encounter with Autankudawa, another boxing warrior that has been brought from another area to face Sani, who has been unbeatable in most encounters. Sadly for Sani, his winning streak finally comes to an end when he is knocked down by Kudawa.
I am pleased with this defeat because this is the first time I have lost a fight, and they had to hire a fighter from a different place to come and face me. I have nothing to say. I am ever ready to face him again. This is a game. I can defeat and be defeated.
To these fighters, the Dembe boxing is both a game as well as a profession.
Dembe is an occupation. God has helped all of us here for being in this profession through which we support our parents. We buy clothes, and some of us have even built houses.
Every day at sunset, Dembe fans throng this arena in Jos Township Stadium to get the thrill of watching young gladiators who come from different parts of Nigeria to fight in one of their cherished traditional sports.
We have realized that neglecting our traditions is to our own peril. The chaos and turmoil we go through as a people are all because of that. Dembe has a history in Jos and Plateau State because we were told that great fighters such as Shago, Dandunawa, Ndat Nufawa, and even Sanin Gidan Kandi all lost their fights in this city. Therefore, Jos has a rich history of Dembe, so we thank Allah for restoring peace to our city.
There is money to be made too, and not just for the fighters alone, but also drummers and health workers who also earn a living through the sport.
Our drums have a lot of influence on the fighters. When we beat the drums, the fighters cannot resist the sound. They become charged and throw themselves into the arena to fight, even if they never intend to fight.
There is what we call laceration. Second or third degree laceration that comes due to a very powerful punch that causes the skin to tear and cave in. So anytime we have that, we give out a first aid treatment. We arrest the bleeding so the fighter does not lose a lot of blood.
With the gradual return of peace to the city of Jos, Dembe enthusiasts are hoping the game will continue to grow and one day be recognized enough to be included at the Olympic Games. From Jos, Nigeria, Ilyasu Kasimu, VOA News.
Guinean designer Queen Titini is breaking new ground in fashion, showcasing the fabrics of Guinea-Bissau through her designs. Titini wants to empower young people from her homeland to believe in and pursue their dreams and to see African fabric and style normalized and worn by everyone. Our Portuguese colleague Mayra de la Salette spoke to her in New York.
This is Queen Titini, a Guinean fashion designer based in the Spanish island of Ibiza. During a conversation in New York, the designer explained how difficult it is to make it in a world of men. But the word give up doesn't exist in her dictionary. Between dreams and goals, she wants to empower young Guineans to follow their dreams in fashion and wants African patterns to travel the world and dress everyone regardless of the color of their skin or their culture.
Tem sido fascinante, tem sido incrível, né, com as suas dificuldades.
It's been fascinating and incredible despite difficulties because I've lived and still live on an island, a very cosmopolitan island, where the whole world goes. But there are many people who don't know about African patterns and are fascinated by it. So that gives me an opportunity to explain. People are fascinated and love to buy clothes. We've used canvases that are painted clothes from Guinea. These canvases have energy, it's handmade, it's detailed work, it's the work of people who are artists, but they don't even know that they're artists. It's incredible.
É incrível. Então, isto é uma paixão para mim.
It's a passion for me. It's not easy for a woman in a world of men, which it always has been. But there's always a time for everyone to make their own way. And I encourage women. My duty, my mission is to make myself feel empowered. It's always been a long road for me. Now I feel empowered and I want to pass this on to other women. Step by step, I'm taking this with love. Because you can't go into a man's world and say, look, I'm here. You can because it's complicated. Find your way, get in where you can, but get in, go.
Crianças, adolescentes, jovens do meu país.
Women, but above all children, teenagers, young people in my country. If you want to be a designer or stylist, go for it and you can do it. There's room, you just have to be persistent. You have to be tough enough to deal with rejection or other unexpected situations.
Idealizado. Se queremos que a nossa cultura vá para frente, que seja vista,
If we want our culture to go forward, let it be seen. Do we want to be the only ones using our culture? If we allow others to use our culture, it's a way of paying homage to it. My point is that it should be normal and natural to see people wearing African clothes. Let them start consuming it instead of worrying about wearing it. People wear it because it's beautiful. I like to see people who aren't African wearing African clothes. It's a way of sending our culture even further, and it looks good all over the world.
de mandar a nossa cultura mais longe ainda. E fica bem a todo mundo.
A ceremony to mark the return of royal artifacts looted during colonial rule was held in the Manshia Palace Museum in Kumasi, Ghana. 32 gold and silver treasures were returned by British Museums on a long-term loan as part of Ghana's Asante King's Silver Jubilee celebrations. Let's take a look.
On May 1st, Ghana's Ashanti King displayed for the first time dozens of royal artifacts looted during colonial rule. The British Museum and the Victoria and Albert Museum earlier this year agreed to give back 32 gold and silver treasures pillaged by British military forces from Ashanti leader Asante Hene's court during the 19th century Anglo-Ashanti Wars. They include the sword of the state known as Mpomponso and the gold badges of officials authorized to purify the king's soul. The collection also features a gold lute harp presented by Ashanti Hene Ose Bonso to British diplomat Thomas Edward Bowditch during an 1817 trade treaty.
The items that came back virtually is the soul of the people of Ashanti.
Zero.
We are displaying this for you to see that the items that were stolen, looted in 1874, not all of them has returned, but that what we have here still embodies the soul of Ashanti. And I believe within the period that they are being displayed here, you make an effort, everybody, to come and visit, to see it yourselves.
The Ghanaian king showcased the items in the refurbished Manshia Palace Museum in Kumasi, the seat of the Asante Hene Kingdom. Each item offered visitors a rare glimpse into the splendor of Ashanti history and culture. The Fowler Museum in the United States also returned 7 royal artifacts to the Ghanaian Ashanti king, making the Manshia Palace Museum now home to 39 artifacts which were lost to colonial powers. The exhibition is now open to the public.
And thank you for watching VOA's Red Carpet. I'm Jackson Funganyi. For more entertainment news, remember to check us out at voaafrica.com. We are also on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. Until next time, goodbye everyone.
A point-of-sale operator said there are plans to sue the Corporate Affairs Commission (CAC) over mandatory registration requirements. On May the 6th, the CAC and financial technology fintech companies agreed to a 2-month timeline to register their agents, merchants, and individuals with the Commission. Now, the CAC said the deadline for the registration is set for July the 7th. According to the Commission, the action is equally backed by Section 863, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, as well as the 2013 Central Bank of Nigeria Guidelines on Agent Banking. Now, the president of the Association of Mobile Money or Bank Agents in Nigeria, AMBAN, Fasasi Sharafaddin, faulted the directive mandating the POS operators to register with the CAC, saying the move had forced the association to go to court to seek a redress. Now, Sharafaddin asserted that the directive from the CAC violated the provision of the Companies and Allied Matters Act laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, which explicitly states that the Commission has no jurisdiction over individuals not operating as a company. He noted that sub-agents are independent branches of a company already registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Now, today on the show, we'll keep our eye on recent development on agency banking and POS operators in Nigeria. Welcome to Business Insight on Plus TV Africa. I am Justin Akadonye. Welcome back now. The National Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents of Nigeria, AMBAN, has revealed plans to crack down on illegal and unauthorized point-of-sale terminal operations, marking a shift from the usual approach. Now, Sharafaddin Fasasi, the national president of AMBAN, made this known while introducing the Agent Joint Task Force, which aims to monitor POS activities and prevent fraudulent behavior. Details now.
No letter of authorization.
Due to the escalating insecurity in the country, point-of-sale terminal operators are increasingly facing attacks, leading to fewer residents being included in financial services. Recent government reports reveal that terrorists are exploiting fintech platforms, POS terminals, and non-government organizations to transfer funds and carry out fraudulent transactions. In response to public outcry regarding illegal activities involving POS operators and some officers, the Nigeria Police Force recently strengthened its prohibition on using POS terminals and other electronic financial devices in formations nationwide.
In the year 2022, fintech broke that record as the largest industry that attracted the largest dollars.
As involved stakeholders, the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents of Nigeria, AMBAN, is actively working with security agents to clean up the industry through a national joint task force.
Our experience in most of the bandits' prone areas are that they are also using agents for their transactions.
The association addresses gray areas among its members and takes a strong stance on removing dishonest individuals from the system to safeguard customers' funds and support legitimate operators.
So if you check, you see we have compiled the CBN regulation on agency banking. So we have distributed that. Then part of our agenda is to work with the police, the civil defense, the EFCC, the CBN, the necessary agencies, including the National Rotation Agency, to make sure that we carry the message to the necessary quarters and make sure that we sanitize the industry. If you listen to what Mr. President said during the time he made the remark, he talked about informing agents and educating them. So that is the need for the CIBN certification project that is ongoing. Then he equally talked about collaboration with all the necessary agencies which I have mentioned.
And when it comes to the area of fraudulent and sharp practices with POS agents and some of these mobile money agents, we quickly respond by doing a preliminary investigation that now takes us into the thorough investigation that makes us to nip these criminals in the bud, bring them to book, and also hand them over to appropriate and authorized agency of government who now deals with them, prosecutes them through the laws, and eventually maybe gets conviction for them. And it's also an opportunity for us to stamp out financial and economic crimes out of our community.
After the inauguration, the task force begins working diligently at the Balinde bus stop. They conduct an on-the-spot inspection to confirm the adherence of POS operators in the vicinity. Sharafuddin Fasa Siatonda is a national president of AMBAN. He expresses concern over the extent of violations.
And we are here with the security agents, and out of the spot check that we have done, none of them actually has anything compliance in line with CBN regulations. And a lot of them, they don't even have letter of authorization from their financial institutions. And we can also see that they are operating not under a conducive atmosphere. No physical location as stipulated by banking regulation, agent banking regulation. And we are here not to enforce, we are here to start awareness.
He explains the next steps while also discussing methods to achieve successful financial inclusion.
We have referred them to go and read about agency banking regulations of the Central Bank of Nigeria and go and look at requirement to be an agent and under which environment should an agent be operating. Look at them now, they don't have logbook, no record.
AMBAN is encouraging its members to view security as a joint effort, advising them to take a more active role and report dishonest and fraudulent individuals operating in the system. Justin Akadonye, Plus TV News, Lagos. All right, welcome back from that report. Let's continue with our main discussion now. The Registrar General of the CAC, Hussaini Magaji, revealed in a statement released by the Commission that the recent development involved reaching an agreement with the POS operators following a meeting in Abuja. He emphasized that the registration process aligns with legal requirements and the directives of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Magaji clarified that the registration timeline was not aimed at specific groups or individuals, but rather focused on safeguarding businesses. He highlighted that the initiative is supported by Section 863, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA, of 2020, as well as the 2013 CBN Guidelines on Agent Banking. So right now, I am being joined by the Vice President of the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria, AMBAN, Dr. Obioha Oti, to delve deeper into this matter. Good morning to you, Dr. Oti. Many thanks for joining us on Business Insights.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
It is indeed a pleasure. Let's try and grasp a bit of what's really going on with the entire development now with the CAC and registration of POS agents. Now, AMBAN is saying that they are headed for the court, because of this recent directive. But from what we understand, from statement that we read, the CAC said it was actually agreed upon at a meeting in Abuja. What is the true picture?
I don't know exactly the meeting that you are referring to that was there in Abuja where this agreement was made. But I am just sure that many of us in AMBAN, including our president, Mr. Fasasi Sharafuddin, we are all surprised when the news broke that every of our members must register with the CAC in order to continue operating. So we are surprised that that happened, and just like you rightly said, we are ready to do everything we can to make sure that we counter that, because we believe strongly that it is not in line with the agent banking regulation from CBN, and even the CAMA that you mentioned, which I will read out to you in due course. We believe that that directive runs also contrary to it. Thank you.
Okay, let me try and understand your point of view. You're talking about what is contained in the guidelines from the CBN. The CAC is saying something else, that the action is backed by Section 863, subsection 1 of CAMA and the 2013 Central Bank of Nigeria guidelines. What those guidelines that the CBN has put in or have put in place right now, for for POS operations. Can you just run it through us so we can actually get a bit of clarity here?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Let's start from the Company and Allied Matters Act that you said the CAC quoted. At least on my desk here, let me go direct to that page. You mentioned section 863. Let's read it and see what exactly is there. It says, a person or association of persons shall not carry on business in Nigeria as a company, limited liability, partnership, limited partnership, or under a business name without being registered under this act. So what this is actually talking about is that people or persons should not carry out businesses like companies. They should not carry out businesses. Look at it very well. A person or association of persons shall not carry on businesses in Nigeria as a company. As a company, limited liability, partnership, limited partnership. So we are not contesting that. We are not contesting that because the CAMA says that people should not carry on businesses as companies without prior registering with the CAC. That is very clear. Most of our agents are not operating as companies. They are operating as individuals. And the agency banking regulation from the CBN allows individuals to register and operate as agents under financial institutions. Okay, let's even go to the agency banking regulation. If you look at section 6.1 that talks about agent eligibility, let's look at read it together. It says, individuals and entities who wish to act as agents of financial institutions shall be required to meet the following eligibility conditions. Okay, so if you go down, you see all the conditions that is referring to. So this regulation recognizes agents that are operating as individuals, not as companies. We have agents that operate as companies. Myself, I operate as a company and I'm duly registered with the CAC. There are so many other agents in that category, especially when you get to the aggregator category of agents. Everyone at that level operates as a company. But there are several other individuals who are even more in number that operate individual at the individual level, just like every other businesses in Nigeria. For instance, you have the akara seller, somebody who is selling akara by the roadside. You have somebody who is selling provision. You have somebody who is selling small things like that. And most of these people, their total capital may not even be up to 50,000. Some of them 20,000. They are just recycling their capital to enable them continue to be in business. So these are the people that we are talking about. They are not operating as companies, and they don't intend to operate as companies, even in the nearest future. So both the Companies and Allied Matters Act and the Agency Banking Regulation recognizes that individuals can carry on their normal businesses. And these set of people are the people we are saying that the CAC should let alone to carry on their businesses the way they have been carrying it. So if they decide in future to register as companies, then they can now go to the CAC. But right now, CAC has no jurisdiction over them. Thank you.
All right, let's even delve into why the CAC and the so-called the CBN guidelines have actually been brought to the fore right now. According to the CAC, it's saying that this particular move will help stem the issue of aside from infractions, issue of security, kidnapping, and all that we've had over time. I'm also aware that the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents of Nigeria recently launched a joint security task force. So where do you find a middle ground in all of this?
Okay, thank you. I'm happy you were right there during the time we launched this, and you can tell very well about some of the things we talked about. Now, let's even start from the reason behind the mandatory CAC registration by all agents, including those operating as individuals. Now, you said it will help to curb some infractions and the malpractices, and you mentioned fraud and so on. I listened to your news right now, where we were reeling out all the malpractices and all the negative consequences of certain of us who are members of the NEC, came up with the idea of the joint task force because we want to, as much as possible, find a way to, sanitize our industry. We have a lot of situations where we see things that are happening contrary to the practices that we know should be the case. People, for instance, hawk POS, you see them on the road, they are running after vehicles, trying to get customers to patronize them. That is wrong because the agency banking regulation that I just read out a section there says that a POS operator or an agent banker should have a recognizable address, should be in a particular location where you can always find them. You see, there are so many other things that people are doing that run contrary to the rules and regulations. Now, CAC registration or mandatory CAC registration is not Abuja for a symposium on economic and financial inclusion. Our association, we are fully represented. I was there myself, and the issue equally came up when the vice president asked us what we are doing about that. Our president, Mr. Fasasi, explained clearly our position on that. He explained our collaboration with the police, the civil defense, the DSS, the EFCC, and the relevant law enforcement agencies. We are trying our best to work with them so that we provide the necessary intelligent information and the collaboration to be able to deal with this. I think that is the way the government should go, not mandating every POS operator to register with CAC. Okay, now, I work in the bank myself for many years. I know that the quantum of fraud that emanates from CAC registered corporate entities is very high. That registration has not in any way helped to prevent fraud. You understand? So
it's about a month right now. So far, what changes have been made, and what's the situation like right now since the launch?
Okay, that launch is just the initial awareness that we want to create. We've really not done much because we are still trying to seek collaboration with the necessary law enforcement agents. We've not actually rolled out the task force across the 36 states and the FCT. Though some of our state chapters, are engaged with activities aimed at enlightening the public first, because we are not going to directly come out in full force to enforce, but we have to enlighten them. We have to do the necessary advocacy that is involved. We have to do the necessary training that is involved across our membership, including those that have refused to identify with us. We are trying as much as possible, since we are operating within the same industry, to enlighten them so that they understand what actually is going on. And by so doing, the bad name that the society generally gives agent bankers or POS operators at least will reduce. And we want to make sure that as much as possible, as much as we can, we'll make sure that the industry is sanitized and all the elements that cause problems within our industry, we're able to fish them out and hand them to the necessary law enforcement agents to take care of them. So for now, we've not fully come out, but we are still seeking. Just recently, some of our state chapters, for instance, here in Lagos, we went to the different law enforcement agents, to really make sure that they join us in our move, to make sure that this joint task force succeeds.
All right, fine. As we round off now, I'm also aware that AMBED has actually been closely involved in the financial inclusion and policy of the federal government. And the last time you guys were at Nasarawa and you launched the NFI, Neighborhood Financial Inclusion Center. So can you give me an update of all of that as we round off?
Okay, thank you so much. I'm really happy and I appreciate you for bringing up the issue of the Neighborhood Financial Inclusion Centers. So that is the vision of Mr. President Fasasi Sarafaddin. So he shared this vision, and the reason behind it actually was because of the challenges a lot of people were encountering to register BVN, to register NIN, and some other services that will really deepen financial inclusion. If you recall, I think your station gave a report, a very disturbing report about people that want to do NIN because they wanted to register for JAMB. I think it was before JAMB, and in fact, we saw the confusion that happened in that very place.
Yeah.
So that is exactly the picture all over the country, and it has not ended. So in our wisdom, Mr. President decided that AMBAN as an association can do something because we have the membership across the country. I don't think there is any industry association that has more members than mobile money and bank agents that is scattered all over the country. And if we are giving the necessary encouragement and enablement by the necessary people that are supposed to help us, we should be able to bring these services closer to the people, right from the villages, the communities, the wards, the local government, up to the state and the national level.
All right.
So that was the vision behind the NFIC.
All right, thank you, Dr. Obioha Oti. That's as much as we can take. We wish you all the best, and we'll follow the progress as regards the POS registration with the CAC, and of course, we'll keep our viewers informed as per the latest news. We want to say a big thank you to you for joining us today on the show. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, and I'm happy that you gave me the opportunity.
All right, that's the size of the show for today. I have been speaking with the Vice President of the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents of Nigeria, AMBAN. My name is Justin Akadonye. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
It is not the hope of this feature to blame anyone for the never-ending tension between police and the citizens. However, it is certain that there is always a tension with most people when they approach a police checkpoint. Many factors are responsible for this tension, including not knowing what to expect or do, seeing the police as the enemy, or even being guilty of an infraction. Many issues that go wrong at a police checkpoint can be linked to lack of proper communication and understanding on the side of the police force and also on the side of the citizen. Here are some tips listed by the police force about comporting yourself at a police checkpoint. Endeavor to slow down your vehicle. It shows that you're not reckless. It also douses suspicion that you're a criminal and may want to speed off. Turn down the volume of your car stereo. Courtesy demands this. Besides, you are able to hear each other better. This simple act will help you win the confidence of the security operative. Keep your hands visible to avoid unnecessary suspicion or fear by the officers that you're attempting to bring out a gun or other harmful objects to attack them. Turn on the inner light of your vehicle while approaching the cops if at night. It readily sends an unspoken message that you have nothing to hide.
That's the nature of your job, officer. Don't worry. That's the nature of your job. Everything will be fine.
Be friendly and cheerful. Commend the officers, especially when you see them working under very unfriendly weather conditions such as rains and harsh Harmattan conditions, excessive heat, cold or sunshine. We know it's their job, but a little kind word from you will do a lot of good. Remember, when you smile at the mirror smiles back at you.
Officer will not come down. Let's see what you do. Don't mind this. We won't come down.
Endeavor to be polite when answering questions put to you by the officers. Don't dare or challenge an armed security man to a duel. Oftentimes, you hear people say things like, "Shoot me if you can." Note that this is a recipe for disaster. It is a very provocative and unnecessary call for war. So please, play safe. More so as you do not know the state of mind of the officer concerned. Also, don't go into a physical fight with an armed security officer. He may resort to the use of his weapon to defend himself. Avoid unnecessary arguments with armed security personnel. There are 1,001 ways to seek redress where you feel your rights have been infringed upon. Never try to touch an officer in an unfriendly manner. He may suspect you of trying to disarm him. If you're a regular traveler or road user, make sure you have the police emergency phone numbers of the route you operate. You never can tell when an emergency situation could arise and you need the police to come to your aid. Make sure you have all your relevant car papers and desist from actions or inactions that constitute either a criminal or traffic offense. Such infractions of the law provide a veritable grounds for possible charges and other forms of adversarial contact with the police or other law enforcement agencies, including unnecessary arguments. Don't give the impression that you're unhappy to see the officer on his beat or that he's wasting your time. But if you do have an emergency, politely inform the officer. Don't speed off while still being checked. Take note of the name tags, force or service numbers, personal description of weapon or patrol vehicle of the security officer, especially where the officers begin to conduct themselves in an unprofessional manner. Seek an audience with the most senior officer at the checkpoint if things are not working out smoothly. Politely insist to be taken to the police station if your complaint is not properly addressed.
Coastal Highway Project probe. Reps to summon Edun Umahi, Attorney General of the Federation. I am Bola Oba, and this is Plus Politics. The House of Representatives on Thursday resolved to probe the ongoing 15 trillion naira Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project. As such, the House said it would set up an ad hoc committee which would investigate the project and submit a report within 4 weeks. The resolution of the House followed the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance moved during plenary by the member representing Gwa East, Gwa West Federal Constituency, Benue State, Mr. Austin Achado. The House also resolved to summon the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi SAN, the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, and his works counterpart, Dr. David Umahi, to shed more light on the project. But the Ministry of Works defended the project, saying it followed due process. It also said The House of Representatives members have pledged support for the project. A 700-kilometer turnpike infrastructure, the Coastal Highway project has attracted commendation and condemnation since the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration approved it in February. The 10-lane coastal road was designed to connect Lagos to Cross River, passing through Ogun, Ondo, Delta, Bayelsa, Rivers, and Akwa Ibom states before culminating in Calabar, the Cross River state capital. Under Goodluck Jonathan, the highway was to cost $12 billion and $11.1 billion under Muhammadu Buhari. It was subsequently expanded from a 4-lane dual carriageway to a 10-lane highway. Minister of Works Dave Umahi disclosed that the construction of the coastal road was expected to span 8 years and cost 4 billion naira per kilometer. So far, the minister disclosed that the Federal Executive Council had approved and released 1.06 trillion for the contractor for the pilot phase of the construction, which started at the Eko Atlantic City and will terminate at Lekki Deep Sea Port. Although many have lauded the ambitious project, others faulted the process of the award of the contract that led to the emergence of I-Tech Construction Company Nigeria Limited as the preferred contractor. Umahi had explained that the reason for awarding the contract to I-Tech without competitive bidding, as laid down by the laws, was because of the company's quote-unquote track record. Umahi said the approval process went through the Bureau of Public Procurement after consideration by the Federal Executive Council as prescribed by law. Aside from the cost, the demolition of structures along the right of way of the project, particularly the hospitality outlets around the Lagos beaches, has sparked public discourse on the project. We are now being joined by an economist, Mukhtar Mohammed. We also have a public affairs analyst, Biodun Showumi. Gentlemen, welcome to Plus Politics. Mukhtar, let's start with you. What is your initial take on the Lagos Calabar project?
Well, for me, it's a good project, but again, we must look at other things before we make decisions. What we see in Nigeria, once it's done, once it's a good project, we don't seem to take stakeholders along so that we can have smooth implementation of the project. When it comes to the Lagos Calabar Coastal Road, there's a lot of controversies, whether it was not open publicly for bidding, one company got it, and again, there's the place of integrity, where there seems to be news that the son of the president is a member of the board of that company that was given the contract. And so all these are things that makes a very good project begin to be shown with a lot of controversy.
Mukhtar, the son of the president is allegedly a member of a sister company owned by the same family, Shaguri, but not the construction company itself.
Yes, sorry, that's what so, but again, that is conflict of interest, whether sister company, whether it's a company. But for me, I think economically, you are seeing a project that's going to link about 12 states. I will beef up economic activities along that exit. You are seeing a project that is going to maybe provide a lot of jobs. I mean, if that project starts now, the on-skills will get jobs. But then you need to look at the monumental losses in terms of businesses and in terms of people that will lose their home to this project also. But again, it's boiled down to government being able to settle some of these people that have these issues. But I think economically, it's a viable project, but socially, is a different ball game, because you have people that will have to lose their jobs. I'm not talking about the issue of landmark for now, because if you look at it, the government owns the waterway. Now we need to ask a lot of questions whether landmark actually purchased the seashore, because what the minister have told us is all the shanties along the seashores were the one destroyed. No structure of landmark was touched. So we need to ask questions whether they actually paid for that also, or do they have a right of way to that also. Those are questions that we will need to ask. But economically, looking at it from an economic perspective, I think it's a very, very laudable project. But I have my challenge. It's going to be a project that's going to take 8 years to implement. And already, we're already having challenges. Remember, this project has been there, President, like your report have said it, but none of them have had the, even started it. So I think the Minister of Works should be commended, but people are just saying with the rush in which they are trying to do the Lagos-Calabar road, coastal road, make people become so suspicious, because they feel that there are other roads that need urgent attention that are not being given the attention. But again, like I said, economically, it looks very, very good project.
Okay, let me.
Socially, in terms of how we have come about
I'll come back to you.
There's still a lot to desire.
Let's bring in Biodun Showumi now. Biodun, you have one or two things to say as your prologue.
Yes. In the first instance, the issue of this coastal highway, they don't just start today. It predates, even predated our independence. The coastal highway, Lagos to Calabar coastal highway, had been envisaged long ago, before independence. And clearly it was conceived by Okoti-Eboh, who later became the finance commissioner, and he wanted to execute the project.
Federal Finance Minister.
Commissioner for Finance.
Federal Finance Minister. It was First Republic, so it was a ministry. It was the soldiers, the army, who introduced federal commissioners. So Okoti-Eboh was the Federal Finance Minister under.
Can I continue with my prologue?
Please go.
This went on and on, each government differing on implementing it, until when the Tinubu's administration decided to take it head on. Now, after taking the project head on, then there were also criticisms around whether the federal government, has a right to encroach or to clear some properties on the shoreline. Of course, the federal government came out with the superior argument, which had been affirmed by the Supreme Court, that 240 meters from the shoreline belongs to the federal government. That's a recent Supreme Court ruling. So, therefore, that argument fell by the wayside. Then we now have the issues around the cost of implementing the project. But when it became clear that it would include the standard gauge line, straight down to Calabar, again, that fizzled away. Then we now have another issue being brought up, which is about Seyi Tinubu being on the board of CDK, which is based in Shagamu, a company in which the Shagori brothers hold minority shares, not majority shares, even in CDK. Seyi sits on that board, correct? It's not majority shares. And meanwhile, it's ITEC that got the contract. Seyi does not sit on the board of ITEC. There is no law in Nigeria. And meanwhile, Seyi has been on the board since 2018. There is no requirement under our constitution or any act of parliament that stipulates that on the president, so on somebody is elected as the president, all the siblings must abandon their job. The requirement is only in relation to the president when it comes to conflict of interest. Where does the conflict of interest arise? When Seyi was on the board since 2018, it was not CDK that got the contract, it was ITEC, and the Shagori brothers only had minority shares in CDK. They had only minority shares.
I want to believe.
I cannot see where that is coming from.
I want to believe you had a slip of tongue when you referred to Seyi as sibling. You probably meant son.
Oh, sorry. Seyi Tinubu as his son. Yes.
But having said that, Seyi is a grown individual, a bona fide citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, whose rights are quite independent of his parents. And I want to believe one of the points you have certainly made too is the fact that there is no law that restrains him or constrains him from being a shareholder in a company of his choice. I want to believe that is the point you're making.
Absolutely, but he's not a shareholder in INEC. Yes.
In ITEC.
In ITEC, yeah.
Okay, Mukhtar, I guess you will agree with me that a number of misinformation or deliberate disinformation were given some degree of traction relating to this Lagos-Calabar highway issue. There was a time when it was blown all over the internet that the real estate assets of Landmark were going to be demolished. The minister came into the picture, met the gentleman, and ultimately it became obvious that the props with which they do beachfront trades that were literally located on the well-defined coastal area belonging to the federal government, as stipulated by international law, that law is not peculiar to Nigeria. That it was only those shanties or those props. In his own case, we couldn't call it shanties. The props that he was using for some of the beachfront commercial activities that he was doing that were going to be knocked down. Now, I'm sitting there thinking, is it proper that in the bid to do a project that will inevitably galvanize economic activities for millions and millions of Nigerians, is it proper that we engage in such misinformation and with a view to stopping the government from doing what will positively impact many millions of Nigerians at the expense of one or two people who indeed were ultimately found to have misrepresented the facts regarding what was to be demolished and what ultimately was demolished. Mukhtar, your response, please.
I think, like we said, in terms of the federal, the dissemination of information, misinformation, like I said, is because of the way that the federal government tend to implement projects. Some of these projects that are well thought after, or the information we normally get from most of these projects are really not, in terms of dissemination of information, are really not top-notch. So I think they should work on that. When you want to get a problem, your project, you have to do the public enlightenment, especially the point of the landmark that you brought up today. It was all awash in the social media space, and a lot of people were saying a lot of things that were not right. But again, like you rightly pointed out, I think it has to do from the side of the government. When you want to do a project, you need to make sure that you have dot the line, dot the teeth, and know that you are doing all you have to do to make sure that the project is a success. So I totally agree with you that most of what was being cried all over social media is not supposed to be so. But again, it is what it is when it comes to Nigeria. We tend to go faster than getting the people across. But I totally agree that the federal government did not do so much when it comes with information dissemination to a lot of Nigerians.
Mukhtar, I'll come back to you with the peculiar, the seemingly innovative methodology through which the project is to be financed. Let me go first to Showumi and Biodun. Yes. Do you have a word or two to say on how initially it was? I don't want to use some words coming on my tongue, but the internet was inundated with information and representations that ultimately did not quite were not quite consistent with what was ultimately done regarding the things that were demolished, the so-called envisaged demolishment of landmarks, real estate assets. What do you want to say? Mukhtar believes that the fault could also be ping-ponged back to the federal government, because if they had done their PR and public enlightenment and public listing well, they probably wouldn't have been caught on the hind limbs. What's the take?
Yeah, Mukhtar could be right on the fact that they could have done more in terms of sensitization. But we should not forget one thing, that the issue of Lagos to Calabar Coastal Highway is not a recent project. As far back as under the Jonathan's regime, they actually did acquisition, of land, all through towards Epe on the route that will be taken. So those who went to buy land in those areas which had already been acquired probably did not do a proper check with the Lands Bureau in Lagos. That is possible. And some of them may be ignorant of the fact that they bought lands from land speculators and land, what do they call it, landowners who had previously collected some money. So they may not be aware. So if government had done more enlightenment, probably they would not have been caught up in that. But there are also other people who build shanties along the route which had been cleared, by federal government. Those who have genuine papers, for instance, CFO or building permit approval from Lagos State government, would certainly be compensated, and many of them have already started receiving compensation. So yes, we could do better in terms of public enlightenment than what the federal government did. They seems to be in a hurry to execute the project.
In a hurry to execute the project is the phraseology that also speaks to the fact that, and I really want Biodun Showumi to attend to this, the phraseology that came out from your last statement speaks to the fact that some processes were not quite adhered to in terms of advertising a bid of that magnitude and letting companies who believe they are up to par submit their bids. So the phraseology that you used may be something that may ultimately, and in the backdrop of that, we're having the House of Representatives now setting up another committee with a view also to interviewing some federal executive members, prominent federal executive members, the Attorney General, the Minister of Finance, and indeed David Umahi, the Federal Minister for Works. What would be your response to that?
Yes, no doubt. The Tinubu's administration knows that they have 8 years to execute that project, and they are already in the first 1 year. It's a project which is the biggest project, currently coastal project in Africa, and they are in a hurry to ensure that they could do as much as possible before leaving office if he wins the second term. And again, we should not forget how this project was originally conceived. It was meant to be a private sector finance initiative, which was approved. But later, it became obvious that a certain government has to contribute about 30% of the construction cost. When that became obvious, they went back to the Federal Executive Council. It went through the due process, and it was subsequently, approved. by the FEC after the due process issued their own certificate. Now, the issue is whether coastal project is not only in the growth of GDP. You only need to look at Lekki when Jakonde did the Lekki Road. How Lekki opened up and became something else. It became money spinner. So you can imagine what would happen once that road is constructed, how many new industries that will spring up, the value that will be added to the GDP. That's one thing. Secondly, the project is conceived throughout the lifespan to employ 500,000 people. So how many people will lose their jobs to start with? Very infinitesimal. We are not talking about 5,000 people. That's not what we're talking about, on that road. Then with creation of 500,000 jobs, that for me is fantastic. And if you go to anywhere in the whole world where you have coastal highway, that coastal highway has been a money spinner, through tourism. And for me, it's a win-win situation, irrespective of the pains that will be experienced by a few number of people. We should not forget that there is no gain without pain. And that's quite very important. And I applaud the government for taking this bold initiative to start this project. In the same way, I would expect the government again to commence the Badagry, or whether you call it Agbara to Sokoto Road, because it's a road. They're trying to construct a road around the whole country and open up new areas, for new investments,
I'm not...
It's brilliant.
I'm not particularly surprised that you are calling from the the spur from Badagry, the spur to the Lagos Calabar Road from Badagry to Sokoto. I'm not particularly surprised because if my memory serves me right, somebody has a royal linkage with one of the lightly kingdoms.
Absolutely, in Atonta, yes. The road went through Aton.
Okay, you said it yourself. I didn't spill it on you. Anyway, let me go to Mukhtar now and let's speak to some of the peculiar financial contrivance of the project. Mukhtar, we've heard of the conventional PPP before. We've heard of the private sector sometimes practically being given the concession to do a project like this. But we have a peculiar nomenclature for this. You are an economics person. You want to help us, and the very unique financing architecture that is built into it. You want to help us with that?
Well, you see, when we talk about things like this, we normally talk about the PPP. But this seems to be very different, and sometimes in Nigeria tend to come up with their own homegrown ways, or maybe it's our own homegrown ways of trying to finance this project as it stands now. Which
I want to believe is good. I may be wrong.
It is good. But again, it's good, but implementation has always been a problem when it comes to this project, and especially now it looks like due process were not followed through. And so when you begin to get the National Assembly get themselves involved in, that means they were not involved in the appropriation, they were not carried along. And so when it gets there now, it becomes a little bit shady, because a lot of things begin to come out. Sometimes these things are not true, but again, by the time it gets to public views, they are viewing it like they are doing it for themselves, they are not doing it for us. So I think, one and large, sometimes when we start asking questions, that they begin to tell us about, oh, this is how the finances is going to happen, this is how it's going to happen, this is how it's going to happen. They are not always coming clear, at the beginning to say, you know what, this is what should be done, this is how it should be done. I think for me, that was the problem. We mustn't be asking questions, because a lot of people were asking questions, is that the right project at this time? And the federal government started explaining. I think all these things should have been kept, and then due process followed. Get the National Assembly involved. The situation by the National Assembly is coming for a proof, because that's foreign investors that want to invest in your country. When they begin to see lack of judicial process, especially when there is no rule of law, and I keep saying it, protection of intellectual properties. They tend to look at that before they want to invest in your country. So when you are doing a very good,
if you may help me, Mukhtar, how is intellectual property rights violated in a project, in this project specifically?
No.
Or are you speaking? Are you speaking to what is generally opined to be lack of transparency or accountability?
I'm saying that when foreign investors want to come to your country, they look at these two rules. They look at the rule of law and intellectual properties. I'm not talking as intellectual property as regards this current project. In this project, I'm looking at the rule of law, due process. With due process, I'm saying that they tend to look at was due process followed. It could be a foreign investor that wants to invest in this project. Will he be confident enough to want to invest when he realized that due process were not followed? So that's what I'm trying to say about it. But I'm not saying due, because the minister kept saying that due process was followed. But again, if you watch his interview with a lot of with some journalists, it became more or less like a comedy. He was not able to come out clear and answers a lot of questions. So I think when you get, I keep saying, when you use a word like probe, it tends to bring negativity to the forefront. Ordinarily, it should not. But when you say you are probing a project, you are calling for probe. It's that word echo a lot of negativity.
Thank you very much, Mukhtar. Mukhtar just made a point on the peculiar financing portfolio of the project, but not so much about that. But for him, which is right about the standard that is seemingly below what could be said to be consistent with the rule of law. When processes are not properly followed, when procedures are jumped, and when it's gotten to a point where even members of the House of Representatives are so alarmed that they formed an ad hoc committee to look into the project, and ministers have been summoned to face the House. You have one or two things to say to that, Biodun regarding the managers of the project practically getting themselves into a cul-de-sac of a sort, a PR cul-de-sac of a sort. Is Mukhtar there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to believe that, like Biodun gave the example when Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, then as governor of Lagos State, instead of the route we used to take to Ekpe in those days, we would go through Ikorodu Road to Ikorodu. From Ikorodu, we will go in the direction of Imota to Addison, and then turn to Ekpe. It was a very circuitous, very draining journey in those days. But when Alhaji Lateef Jakonde opened up the Victoria Island, the Maroko to Ekpe, arterial road, before I-Tech eventually under Fashola expanded it. But when Alhaji Jakonde opened that arterial road, it turned from Victoria Island to Lekki, became a very valuable real estate asset. And look at ultimately the magnitude of the investment, real estate investments that have populated that axis. So that may just be That may just be a kind of simple this of what may likely emerge if the Victoria Island to Calabar Road were to come to life. How would you want to respond to that?
Exactly. Like I said, economically, the project makes a lot of sense. When you look like what you've said, real estate, we look at tourism. And again, you look at, it's not just Lagos, it's going to pass through about 13 states. And that also is an added advantage to every of those states that this road is going to pass through. You just need to, and when you're saying pass through, that means sometimes we might begin to see less activities in the Benin, Shagamu axis of the road, because there could be a link route through that coastal road whereby you will now have to just cut it off and get to Benin, rather than going through Benin, Shagamu, since the roads and practically not very good at the moment. So it creates other link route, like what you have just said, the opening up of the Victoria Island exit, Morocco down to Ekpe, what that has done to that area. Same thing will happen here, and it's a coastal route. And so, and again, what one area that a lot of people are not looking at is that it's going to come with a link that will link for railway, the Calabar, Lagos to Calabar railway is going to be also on that same route. So it's first of its kind in Nigeria, and so it's going to be a huge thing for tourists to want to come and see, one, and again to enhance business activities. Look at what is happening these days in Eco Atlantic. A lot of tourists are coming to see what's happening here in Eco Atlantic. Even the almighty American embassy will be located in Eco Atlantic very soon. So that tells you what
very soon. I guess I read somewhere that they've started building the biggest American diplomatic mission outside of United States in Eco Atlantic.
Yeah, in Eco Atlantic. Yes, exactly. And so you can see what projects like that could do. So I feel the business climate will be fine to receive that project, but the challenge has always been, this is a project that has been there for years, and it's going to take 8 years to be completed. Even if we are so excited about the mode of funding, not all government, but again, there are still details that need to come up, because that means it's a private sector moved road. They will have to be towing. There will have to be toll gates along those roads, because private sector will not just take their money there for people to just come and go. They want to recoup their money back. So those are part of the costs that we will be paying in the long term. But like I said, economically, that is going to be a game changer, and it could also lead to other major infrastructural projects that might come from other states to link up even with the coastal road. So economically, it makes a lot of sense. But like we always say, sometimes in the economic side of it, you have to look at the human angle of it. People will be displaced, no matter how small, it will be up to 500,000.
I was going to ask Biodun Showunmi, I wouldn't know if he's back now. I was going to ask him to juxtapose, you see, as seemingly inconsistent with best practices that the approval of the project seem to be painted in or painted with. One is also very concerned that we don't get into the kind of cul-de-sac that the English civil engineering industry has gotten itself into relative to say a country like France. The French, if they want to do a project, they do it. You know, they don't faff around, they don't over debate, they don't over litigate. Look, I know projects in England that's been going almost 30 years now. And one was, in fact, expansion of Heathrow Airport had to be ultimately be suspended. Apart from that, the H2 project, almost 20-something years, debate, processes, litigation, it's been, and yet, as we speak, because of the Olympic, the French are expanding seriously their light rail and their underground system. They are rebuilding Paris in a magnificent way. And I was reading somewhere that, you know what, they were even speaking condescendingly about English-speaking countries, that we seem to have perfected the art of letting processes choke the need for development. I wonder if they do the kind of litigious and contentious the processes that we do in this part of the world. I wonder if China would have developed as far as China is now with all. Just what would be your response to that?
You hit the nail on the head. That's my fear about this project. A lot of people have said that they are more interested in the Lagos exit of the project. By the time it gets out of Lagos, it will not see the light of day because they feel that will only bring development to Lagos. But we hope it will not be like that. Hopefully the government will get their act together because funding is not going to be a problem unless those means of fundings now begin to get issues like you have said in issues of liquidation and others. And I'm more concerned about what the probe of the National Assembly might have on this project going forward, because we know what probes are in this country. Even if at the end of the day, some of these probes have not seen the light of day, but they have ended up sometime in destroying these projects because a lot of people become more suspicious about them because the members sometimes get so emotional. They don't look at the economic viability of this project. They begin to look at the sentimental part of it, that my people are affected, this is going to happen. So that's my fear. Hopefully, President Tinubu will have the political will to do the right thing to make sure that this project see the light of day. To its ultimate conclusion. Since an 8 years project, hopefully he will be able to do much if he has a second term to finish it.
Thank you very much, Mukhtar, for guesting on the show this evening. We want to appreciate your consistency. Thanking you for adding value always. This is where we wrap it up for today. I am Bola Oba. Have a good evening.
I left Nigeria back as far as 2012, and it was a very funny story. As you can see from my social media pages, my best food is amala. So I worked after work. I'm a medical doctor, full-time doctor. After work, I went to this famous place in Oshogbo where they have amala, just next to my hospital. So while I was there, I sat down with the food, and then I saw this newspaper advert saying, doctors needed urgently in Saudi Arabia. So I abandoned my plate of amala. The rewards were just amazing, and I couldn't believe my eyes. You know, free accommodation, free flights. I was earning, you know, I was going to earn like times 20, you know, of what I earned at the time, in dollars as well. So I packed my bags, went home, packed my bags off to Lagos. I was at Ikeja for the interview. Like immediately? Immediately, I left the Amala, went home, packed my bags, and off I went to Lagos. The next day I went for the interview, did the interview. There were loads and loads of people there. Did the interview and got picked, and I was on my way to Saudi Arabia. So from Nigeria, I worked in Saudi Arabia for 2 years, and then I walked around the Middle East, Dubai, Oman, Bahrain, and from there, while I was working, I was writing my exams to work in the UK and the Republic of Ireland. So from there, I got a lecturing position in the UK, and then I was able to pass my exams within that time. So I got my licenses to be able to practice in Europe. So at the moment, I can practice in Europe, I can practice in New Zealand, I can practice in the Middle East, and of course in Nigeria as well. So my journey hasn't been straightforward. My journey has been from Nigeria, scattered around the Middle East and then Europe. The first culture shock I faced was I landed on a Thursday and obviously Friday, but it didn't click that Friday was a day to be respected in the Middle East, in the Muslim society. So I got up, was looking for food. I got out of my house, and after walking for like 5 minutes, it still didn't click that I was the only one in the environment, okay? So after walking about, say, 500 meters, I suddenly saw a car just drove in front of me and blocked me, and then I saw all these guys in beards just came, and of course I didn't. So the guy just came and said, "What are you doing out here? It's Friday. You're supposed to be praying." I'm like, I paused, and then he says, "Okay, are you a Muslim or a Christian?" "Yeah, are you a Muslim or a Christian?" I swear I didn't know whether to say Muslim or Christian because I didn't know what was going to happen. If you say Christian and they start flogging you, if you say Muslim, why are you not in the mosque? So I paused, and the guy said, "Bring out your Ikama." I showed him my Ikama, which is like a resident permit. That shows your religion, so it shows it shows I'm a Christian. And then he said, "Where are you coming from?" I said, "I just got into Saudi yesterday. I don't know what's going on." Then he said, "Well, today's Friday, Jumat. You have to be praying. If you're not praying, you respect it. Stay in your house between this period." So I said, "Okay." He said, "Everywhere is closed. You can't even get food." So I said, "I'm sorry. I will walk back right now." And then another one that was amazing, even though I was a doctor, I couldn't speak to female patients. So if a man comes in with a woman and the woman is the one with the problem, you cannot talk face to face to her. You cannot ask her. You have to ask the husband, say, "Okay, why have you brought this woman here?" And then the husband would. So my first experience, I spoke to this woman who had a breast lump, and I was talking. The husband was just looking at me. So when I finished, he was answering me. And when I finished, the guy just lost it. "How can you be talking to my wife?" I was like, I'm not toasting your wife, guy. You know, calm down. So the medical director had to give me an education, you know, yeah. So we were able to just placate the guy at that time. So that was one culture shock for me as well. I've traveled a lot of countries. I've seen 50 different countries now. I would say that in Europe, okay, so some very interesting ones. When I got to Europe, I was in my house, just sitting on my own, and friends said, "Come on, there's this birthday party happening, let's go and eat." I said, "Birthday party? Oh yeah, let's go now, where's the venue?" So I went to the venue, we ate, we ordered, ate everything, finished. Birthday party. At the end of the day, the celebrant came and said, "This is the bill." And in my head, I'm thinking, bill for what? I should pay that you invite. I was in my house. I was in my house, you invited me. I came to eat, now I have to pay the bill. So that was one. The second one was, of course, driving. In Nigeria, you're on the left side, but in the UK, you're on the right side. So that was another culture shock for me in Europe. Okay. It's important to state that I always talk about the way to live legally within the legal bounds without violating any international laws, which is opposed to what people do, most people do. And if you notice very well, people live, you know, it's upward movement. You're living from poorer countries to rich countries. And interestingly, it's not as if the people who leave their countries illegally, generally speaking now, are not the poorest of the poorest when you put the standard of their country into context. They're not the poorest of the poorest. But because they're looking for better opportunities, they're looking for a place where they will get, you know, larger finances, a better standard of living, education, good access to health. That's why they're leaving. So they don't care how they do it. So long as the promises, you know, they've been given good promises, then they just take that pathway. I always use my social media handles on Instagram, on YouTube, Waka Waka Doctor, to tell people of the legal ways. And the reason why people most times don't want to follow this pathway is because I would say it's inherent laziness, because you have to do the work. You know, this illegal pathway, they're possibly going to say, pay this amount of money, we will just move you across the border. But they don't consider the consequences that come with it. This way that I preach involves a lot of, you know, work. You have to do a lot of work. So it means that you have to do research, you have to make applications, you have to pay little amount of fees, and then get the end result. So if you're not open to working, I give tips, I point you towards the right direction, but if you're not open to working, then it becomes a difficult task for you. So the easiest way is to keep educating ourselves. We keep educating these people and passing the information across. And I mean, this is one thing I'm doing now, and it's one thing I've been doing for the last 18 months, using Instagram, Twitter, YouTube to pass the information across. If someone comes to you to say, okay, I'm going to take you to Europe, you're a cake baker, I'm going to get you scholarship, there are documents you want to see. There are documents you want to see. You have your original passport. Have you submitted a statement of motivation or a letter of intent? Do you have a visa? Have you submitted documents to help you get an original visa? Do you have a work permit? Have you seen an original work permit? Have you called your employers over there to confirm that I have a real job and I'm coming to resume? So that again brings me to my first point, that people are mentally lazy. They don't want to do the work. Because when someone gives you documents and say, oh, this is your document, we're going abroad, you should say, give it to me. Let me confirm if it's real. Let me confirm if it's original. If it's a work permit, I'm going to call my employers to see if this job is real. If it's a school admission, I'm going to ring up the school to find out if it's real. I told you behind the cameras, I said, people have this mentality that, you know, things work outside just the way it works in this country. It's wrong. If you pick up the phone and call an admissions office, they will talk to you. If you pick up the phone and call an employer, they will talk to you, just looking for information. And if the information is real, they definitely get it. So, like I said, the first way to help with spread of information and help curb this is spread of information, educating people. And that's what I've been doing for the last 18 months using my social media platforms. Nothing good comes extremely easy, okay? You have to be patient. I tweet sometimes, I say that, I say, when you travel abroad, your life changes, you know, your skin becomes fresh, your smile is different, okay? There's peace of mind, you know, things come to you easily. You can actually actualize your dreams. You can live out your dreams right in front of you because there's a system that supports that. So my advice is, when you go abroad, be patient, keep working hard, don't stop, don't relax, you know, have a vision, write it down, allow your eyes see that vision, you know, consume it and continue to work towards it. It's simply as basic as that. That would be my advice. Save, and always call home, because one of the downsides to going abroad is that it can be boring sometimes. And that's why you should call friends. Don't cut people off. Call friends. You know, always call home if you miss home. Like I'm home now because I missed Amala. I missed all those things, so I came home. So yeah, that's my advice. Keep working. Keep your head down. Of course, keep your connections back home so that you can always come back to them. This is a huge subject. It's a huge subject, and it's not something I can share in 1-2 minutes. So I'm going to say that the first thing you want to do is open an Instagram account if you don't have an Instagram account, and look for me, Waka Waka Doctor, because I give tips. Now, there are job boards across Europe, across Asia. You cannot streamline your choices and say that, oh, I just want to be in Canada. I just want to go to the US. I just want to go to the UK. There are 195 different countries in the world. So you have to say that I'm open to any one of them. And most of these countries have job boards, okay? Websites, different websites where you can submit your applications. You go through rigorous interviews. You submit documents. If you then succeed, they are able to process your work permits and employ you. Now, some people will say, oh, I've tried the UK, it didn't work out, so they give up. But there are different countries in the world. There's Turkey, there's Lithuania, there's Kazakhstan. I know teachers that I've spoken to, in fact, 6-7 of them in the last 4-5 months who have left Nigeria to Kazakhstan, right? They teach English. They earn at least $1,800 in Kazakhstan, which is much more than what they will earn in Nigeria. So there are 195 countries. I post them, I mean, almost every day on my Instagram channel. So you can watch and see some of these job boards and apply for jobs. Some basic truths and facts is not every doctor can leave the country. So even if doctors are leaving, more doctors would graduate and you still have doctors around. But doctors are leaving in their large numbers every day. So the future of medicine in Nigeria is very bleak, because you have the extremely intelligent doctors leaving, going abroad, because the system abroad is extremely encouraging. The system abroad gives you opportunities to become greater than what you can ever think or imagine. People keep writing their exams, people keep going for interviews because the system allows it. So the advice straight up I'll give to the Nigerian government is, first and foremost, create a platform that encourages us as doctors. Facilities, give us things we can, it's not as if, you know, things we only see in the books, things we can see and work with. Pay us money. I worked in Osun State. My salary in 2011 was 90,000 naira. I was doing 2 jobs and I couldn't earn 120,000 naira, 2 jobs. When I went to Saudi Arabia, salary was $5,000. Look at the discrepancy, it's too huge. And they were owing us 6 months. You owe someone 6 months. How can, I was seeing 200 patients in a day. 200 patients. How, I mean, the first 10 patients I see would get the best out of me. The other ones, the truth, it's just the truth. The other ones would be people, that's it. It doesn't work that way. Create a good culture, a good environment for doctors to work. Pay them properly. You know, give them, you know, standard remuneration that they can compare with their friends and colleagues abroad and say, okay, yes, we you know, it's commensurate to the work we do. Nigerian government really has to improve. The future of Nigerian doctors, sadly enough, is abroad, and countries are asking for them. Like the PLAB exam is an incredibly easy exam to just write and pass. So people are writing it and moving. You know, so if Nigeria cannot improve these parts, payments, facilities, you know, then it's a poor tale. I would end on this note to say that this is a popular theme that I've always passed across, to say that travel is not necessary of money, but of courage. And the reason is because it takes courage to decide to leave a place you've been for many years and go to a place that's brand new. You're going to be leaving your friends. You're going to be leaving your family. You're going to be leaving your job. You're going to be in search of ways to make money, search of better career. So it's often very difficult. The first step is the most difficult one, the most daunting one, saying, I want to move. It's very difficult. But I would always encourage you to take that step. When you start, you will get to the end. Don't wait, start now. It's another year, it's 2022. My aim is to get at least 2,000 people abroad. So if we can do that, we've succeeded. Okay? There are better opportunities out there. If you're attaining this level right now in Nigeria, if you go abroad, you'll be times 20. That's it. So start now, make the move. If you're in town, if you catch me in any of the cities abroad, you can holler at me and I'll be there. Traveling abroad, migrating abroad is not age specific. You know, age is not a limitation. Even if you're in your 50s, you're in late 50s, you can still go abroad. I always talk about academics because academics seems to be the easiest path. But even if it's true career, like I've said earlier, you can go search for these job boards that will give you employment. Again, experience counts. I'll give you an example. Places like Australia are in need of people with huge experiences in different fields. Whether you're a cameraman, you're a technician, you're a chef, if you have 5-10 years, electrician, 5-10 years of experience, and you apply for jobs in Australia, they'll take you. Estonia, Lithuania, these are places that are in need of vocational, you can do vocational studies. If you're not a skilled worker, so to say, these are places that are in need of you. So age is not a factor. So even if you're 50 and you have 15 years of experience to back this, they're looking for you.
I will take you through this amazing lesson today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Good afternoon. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. This is the news update. Several landlords at the Musa camp opposite Denis Osadebe University, Anhui, Delta State, were in tears as they watched bulldozers demolish their houses over 600 million naira. As tears flowed freely as owners of these buildings watched their homes, offices, and shopping malls were also not spared. Our Sawa correspondent Apomejero Friday reports that following the marching order issued by the Delta State Governor, Right Honorable Sheriff Ogboroweri, to the Land Recovery Committee, Mr. Frank Omari, to retrieve all government land across the 25 local government areas of the state.
I just went down from north, from Kano State because of Boko Haram. I'm a widow. I be house here with 7 children. Where Jennifer want us to stay. What do we have to say? No, that's the type of thing people complaining. They have demolished more than 1,000 and something houses here. Both two-story building, duplex, a lot of things. People are mad, carry their load everywhere, going up and down. You know, it's rubbish. People are mad. You know, people are mad. We are mad. I'm not happy at all. They want to come back again for a second tenure. They are coming for a second tenure. We are waiting. The Asabas are waiting. The Oshimili people are waiting. They told us that we're unfortunate that we have the state capital. I went to the lands to confirm if that land is genuine or not. Even they give me a lodgement certificate about the land. That is the greatest thing that I don't know. Because if I find out, if they told me that this land belongs to the government, there's no way I will go and build in government land. I thought what government needs is people that will help them to create more employment. People are creating employment, and the next thing we are seeing that they want them to go into labor market again. So we are not happy, we are demoralized. In fact, since yesterday, most of us...
On his part, the chairman of the task force, Frank Omare, says the people were given enough notice to vacate government land.
We have the documents as state governments. If you want to see it, we'll give it to you. If you live here, go to the Investor Authority, the archives is there. This place, people just come, organize themselves as community members, selling these lands to very, very innocent people. And even these innocent characters, some of them even go to the ministry, and the ministry told them, this is a government land. Some of the characters of the ministry even give them a building approval. A building approval is not a CFO.
The ancient town of Ede in Osun State was agog today as the state governor, Ademola Adeleke, was officially installed as the Asiwaju of Ede land. It would be recalled that the title was held by governor's elder brother, Isiaka Adeleke, until his death in 2017. While speaking at the event, the Timi of Ede said the contribution of Adeleke's family to the development of the town is immeasurable, hence the reason the title is conferred on Governor Ademola Adeleke. In his remarks, Governor Adeleke thanked the people of the state for keeping faith with him, saying he will not relent in contributing to the growth and development of Ede and Osun State. Governor Adeleke sought the support of all and sundry in taking the state to greater heights. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde and the Oni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, commended Governor Adeleke for transforming the state in short space, urging him to use his new title for the development of Yoruba race. The event was graced by Oni of Ife, Governor of Oyo, Ogun, Lagos, and former President Olusegun Obasanjo, among others.
And we carry the light of positive transformation from town to villages and from city to rural areas across our dear state. To all Asiwaju title holders of various towns in Osun State, I welcome myself into your midst. On a lighter mood, I believe you are eager to receive me, not just as the Asiwaju of any land, but as the Asiwaju of Osun State. Dear friends and associates, your presence today strengthens my resolve to further devote myself to the service of the people. You will continue to find me a true people servant, a good listener, and an agent of good governance.
Well-deserved honor to the Mr. Governor, because as a son of this town, we are all proud of what he's doing, what the Adenike dynasty are doing generally. They are making us proud, and there is no better way to honor them than to give them this kind of honor. And we thank our Baba, Oba Dr. Muniruddin Adesola Lawa, for finding the governor worthy of this honor, because it's a well-deserved. So there is no controversy. We are all happy. We are pleased with it.
The Red Cross Society has launched an appeal for more funding to enable it continue to serve humanity in various ways. The official launch, which took place in Abuja, had members of the diplomatic corps represented, together with representatives of the various Red Cross societies such as the British Red Cross and the Norwegian Red Cross. Others are the International Federation of the Red Cross, IFRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross, the media, and other civil society organizations. The national president, while explaining the essence of launch, said it is aimed at addressing the huge gap in funding for the Red Cross in Nigeria, and Nigeria, being a major stakeholder, should rise to the occasion.
Put on a good percentage, we assume a percentage of about 70% of present rate of vulnerability. We are foreclosing that there might be arising some few challenges, maybe because of climate change issues and some other unforeseen circumstances that we might not be thinking about now. We all pray against disasters, but they do occur. If they come, we still have people at the local level that can rise up to certain levels of emergencies if they come beyond the plan of action that we have. Having some penetration into difficult or hard to reach areas in terms of conflict situations or in terms of even threats on the...
On its part, the head of Delegating and Country Cluster for Benin, Ghana, Nigeria, and Togo, Bupinda Toma, said over $63 billion is needed by the Red Cross in Nigeria to effectively address its mandate, hence the need for the launch.
Nigeria Red Cross wants to serve more than 10 million people that are impacted by various crises in Nigeria. And it is requesting that it needs about $63 million to be able to do that. The biggest part of this money or these resources that we are asking for will go to serving the humanitarian impact of the various vulnerabilities in Nigeria. That means that the crisis in Northeast. So I think we are saying that we want to serve about 1 million people in the Northeast that are impacted by the various challenges that are happening in the Bay States and surrounding the Bay States. But the largest part of our contribution is actually for the hunger. As you heard in Nigeria, including the president of the country has declared a hunger, a national emergency. And this is because 30 million people will be impacted by hunger this year in Nigeria. And we are asking for $33 million to see how we can use those resources and pass on to the most vulnerable here in Nigeria.
And from other parts of Africa, the death toll from a building collapse in the South African city of George last week edged up to 33 on Tuesday as rescuers continued to comb through the rubble, with 19 people still unaccounted for more than a week after the incident. Municipal officials said in a statement that only 6 of those who had been killed on the construction site had been identified so far, as authorities were struggling to get accurate names. The last person to be rescued was pulled from the wreckage at the weekend in what the Western Cape Province's premier described as nothing short of a miracle, coming 5 days after the disaster. The death toll stood at 32 on Monday. It has been steadily rising over the past week as more bodies have been retrieved. It is not clear why the 5-story building in the city east of Cape Town collapsed on May 6. Investigations are underway. Outside Africa, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Russian President Vladimir Putin must pay to rebuild what he has destroyed in Ukraine. Speaking in Kyiv, Blinken said Washington has the power to seize Russian assets in U.S. and will use them to help rebuild Ukraine. He also said that Ukraine is getting closer to NATO. Earlier, the top U.S. diplomat told Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky that military aid is now on its way. He added that G7 group, the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Canada, and the US can unblock billions of dollars and send a powerful message to Putin that time is not on his side.
Making Russia pay for Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. What Putin destroyed, Russia should and must pay to rebuild. It's what international law demands. It's what the Ukrainian people deserve. Our Congress has given us the power to seize Russian assets in the United States. We intend to use it. We're working with our G7 partners to see that Russia's immobilized sovereign assets are used to remedy the damage that Putin continues to cause. The G7 can unlock billions of dollars and send a powerful message to Putin that time is not on his side. Finally, we will help the Ukrainian people fully realize their democratic aspirations.
And that's the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on limex.tv and Globe TV apps anywhere in the world. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. Thank you for being there.
An African girl somewhere is sitting at home, accompanied by dreams that seem so far away. Africa is one of the continents with the highest out-of-school percentage in education, and girls are at an early disadvantage. The sub-Saharan Africa records about 18 million out-of-school girls. This gender gap extends to the tech space with a projection of only a 33% global female workforce representation in tech firms for 2022. Let us help change the stories and numbers. Africa Agility's Project Train a Girl campaign is working to help train African girls in tech. You can donate as little as $2 or 2,000 Naira to help a girl in tech get her heels in the door. Visit www.africaagility.rallyup.com/PTAG to donate.
It's been an unusual year for us all. We've been forced to learn to adapt to the changes that COVID-19 has brought upon us. However the cards may have been dealt to us this year, we have remained resilient. The Afrima Fashion Show stems from the Afrima Award Show, which is the biggest African award show in the diaspora. Every year, we have showcased designers and we bring together people from all over the world. This year, the Afrima Runway is graced by the top 3 African designers who have welcomed the challenge of doing a virtual runway show without any physical audience. Don Murphy, Ese Ezanabo, and lastly, Sai Sanko. Let the show begin. Hi
Hi guys, my name is Sai Sankar and I am a luxury resort wear designer and I make the most amazing and fabulous kaftans and everything that you desire for traveling. I just really love the way women carried themselves back then, you know, the Marilyn Monroes, you know. It was sexy, but there was still glamour to it, you know, and elegance and sophistication. And I feel that's what my designs are about, you know. I've also been inspired just by my continent, the continent of Africa. Growing up in Sierra Leone, it's just this beautiful, bustling colors, you know, it's so vibrant, the marketplaces, you know, Christmas, it's just, everything about it is just so energetic and it's so powerful and colorful and it just makes me really happy. And so no matter what collection I do, it always goes back to that. And so that's why you see all this colorful prints and all these bold colors, you know. I feel women wearing it, it just makes them so extremely happy, you know, and they look absolutely gorgeous in it too.
My name is S.A. Grambowski, and I am the designer and owner for S.A. Azinabor Atelier. My source of inspiration for my designs, number one, to be honest, comes from God because I go to sleep literally and dream about my designs. And that only has to be from God. So I always give credit to Him for that. And of course, my culture is very influenced in my design. I've been designing since I was 8 years old. Even before that, my mom would tell me wild stories of me taking her fabrics and cutting them into pieces and making a dress or a skirt or pants out of her expensive African materials that she had in our home back in Nigeria when I was growing up. And I draw a lot of inspirations from where I've been, and I just try to tie them into modern design mixed with vintage designs, mixed with traditional looks, and just tie it all together in a bowl to create a true S.A. Azinabor couture piece.
My name is Daniel Mofor. I'm the founder and designer of Don Morphy, a men's luxury custom suit clothing in Dallas, Texas. Fashion is color. In the past, men were all very scared of, the colors. They were used to the blacks, the grays. But now, if you look at fashion, men wear almost bolder colors than women, You see men in red suits, men in yellow suits, men in pink suits. So for me, fashion is color.
is expressive. So when I just wake up and have an idea and I create something out of that idea, it's God showing off. So that's what it is for me.
I've always been a little bit shy, but when it comes to fashion, I will wear anything and I will wear it with confidence. And so for me, that is a way of expressing myself, you know? And I feel it also is the same thing for a lot of women.
African for me means community. It means living together. If you look at Africans, they're all talking about the different countries in Africa. You know, it's all about our community. So for me, Africa means community. It means living together.